The City of Palm Coast City Council business meeting. Today is January the 18th, 2022. It is now 9 a.m. We are in the community wing of City Hall. So with that, I would ask you all to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If the clerk would call the roll, please.
Mayor Alphen.
Present.
Vice Mayor Branquino.
Here.
Councilmember Barbosa.
Present.
Councilmember Danko.
Here.
Councilmember Clufus.
Present.
Mayor, all members are present.
Thank you. We have a large group this morning, and just before we begin, I would like to introduce two young students who have traveled all the way from Europe, Germany actually, to visit with us to learn something about the City of Palm Coast, the residents of the City of Palm Coast, and the school district. So we have Miss Alina and Miss Yasmin, who have traveled here from Germany and will be watching our proceedings, and they are there in the back. So, so we welcome them and hope that we can let them deliver a message back to their home country, what a great place the City of Palm Coast is. So we have a large group this morning, so let me just go through our local custom for public participation. Public participation shall be held in accordance with Section 286.0114 Florida statutes and pursuant to the City Council's meeting policies and procedures. 1, each speaker shall at the podium provide their name and may speak for up to 3 minutes. 2, the public may provide comments to the City Council relative to matters not on the agenda at the times indicated in this agenda. Following any comments from the public, there may be discussion by City Council. 3, when addressing City Council on specific enumerated agenda items, speakers shall direct all comments to the mayor. B, make their comments, please, concise and to the point. C, not speak more than once on the same subject. D, not by speech or otherwise delay or interrupt the proceedings or the peace of the City Council. E, obey the orders of the mayor or the City Council. And F, not make any irrelevant, impertinent, or slanderous comments while addressing the City Council, which pursuant to council rules shall be considered disorderly. 4, any person who becomes disorderly, who fails to confine his or her comments to the identified subject or business, shall be cautioned by the mayor and thereafter must conclude his or her remarks on the subject within the remaining designated time limit. Any speaker failing to comply as cautioned shall be barred from making additional comments during this meeting and may be removed as necessary for the remainder of the meeting. So I just wanted to review that, and also as a kind of a teaching lesson to our visitors from Germany on how we conduct our public meetings here. I'll move forward now, and I'll move directly to the minutes. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the minutes from the January 4th, 2022 business meeting and the January 11th, 2022 workshop meeting. I call for a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Clerk has that.
Motion passes 5-0.
Now we move to our next section of the agenda, which we refer to as the proclamations and presentations. And I would ask Vice Mayor Branquino if he would honor us with the first proclamation.
Yes, we do.
Family Life Center's coming up.
Do we have anyone one here to receive this proclamation.
Visitors from the Family Life Center.
Would you please approach the podium? Thank you. Oh my goodness. The letter is so small. Let me see if I could read it. Good morning, good morning. Do you mind if I face my back towards that way so this way I can face?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
This proclamation is regarding the Stalking Awareness Month. Proclamation, by the way, this is a long one, so bear with me. Whereas under the law, all 50 states in the U.S. territories and District of Columbia and the federal government, stalking is a crime. And whereas up to 7.5 million people are stalked in a year period in the United States, and the majority of the victims are stalked by someone they know. And whereas 3 in 4 women killed by an intimate partner have been stalked by an intimate partner. And whereas many stalking victims lose time from work and experience serious psychological distress and lost productivity as much higher rate than the general population. And whereas many stalking victims are forced to protect themselves by relocating, changing their identities, changing jobs, and obtaining protection orders. And whereas many stalkers use technologies such as cell phones, global positioning systems, better known as GPS, cameras, and spy to monitor and track their victims. And whereas there's a need for great public awareness about the nature, criminality, and the potential lethality of the stalking. And whereas criminal justice systems can enhance their responses to stalking by regular training and assertive investigations and prosecutions of the crime. And whereas law and public policies must be continued, adapted to keep pace with new tactics used by stalkers. And whereas communities can better combat stalking by adopting multidisciplinary responses by teams of local agencies and organizations, and by providing more and better victim services. And whereas Family Life Center has joined forces with victim service providers, criminal justice officials, and concerned citizens throughout Canal and the United States to observe National Stalking and Awareness Month. And whereas Flagler County Advocate Alliance, comprised of Flagler County Sheriff's Office, Victims Advocates, Flagler Beach Police Department, Victims Advocates, State Attorneys, Victims Advocates, 7 Judicial Circuits of Flagler, and Family Life Center are working together to increase publicly understanding of this problem and mobilize community efforts to end stalking. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Palm Coast Mayor and the City Council do hereby declare January of 2022 the Stalking Awareness Month, and applaud the efforts of the victims' response providers, police officers, prosecutors, national community organizations, and the private sector supported for their efforts in promoting awareness about stalking. Signed this 18th day of January by the Mayor of Palm Coast and Virginia Smith.
Thank you very much.
You want to say a couple words?
Yes,
or
sir.
Just
Hi, my name is Christina. I'm one of the outreach advocates with Family Life Center. I would just like to say that I think the community should be more aware of the signs of stalking. And if you are not aware, you can always call Family Life Center, and we can maybe teach you or come to the schools or your place of work and kind of educate you on stalking. Stalking is the, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. Stalking is murder in slow motion. Thank you. Yes.
Let's stay right here and I'll read this.
Sure.
So to reinforce the proclamation that was just read, because you'll understand right away the connection between the two, I will offer a proclamation on human trafficking. Whereas human trafficking is defined as the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for labor or services through the use of force, fraud, or coercion for the purpose of forced labor or sexual servitude. And whereas human trafficking is a $32 billion a year global criminal enterprise and is a crime as well as a civil and human rights violation. An estimated 25 million people are currently victims of human trafficking and both sex and labor. And whereas human traffickers prey on their victims by promising a life of hope and greater opportunity while delivering only enslavement. Instead of delivering people to better lives, traffickers unjustly profit from the labor and toil of their victims, who they force through violence and intimidation to work in brothels and factories, on farms and fishing vessels, in private homes, and in countless industries. And whereas January is National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month, we commit ourselves to eradicating the evil of enslavement. Human trafficking is a modern form of the oldest and most barbaric type of exploitation, and we proclaim it has no place in the world, great nation, or our city. And whereas this month we do not simply reflect on this appalling reality, we also pledge to do all in our power to end the horrific practice of human trafficking that plagues innocent victims, not only around the world, but in our own neighborhoods. Whereas some awareness and education is crucial to eradicating human trafficking in our communities, state, and nation. And whereas Flagler County Advocates Alliance, comprised of Flagler County Sheriff's Office Victim Advocates, Flagler Beach Police Department Victim Advocate, State Attorney's Victim Advocate, 7th Judicial Circuit Flagler and Family Life Center, are working together to increase public understanding of this problem and mobilize community efforts to end human trafficking. Whereas Human Trafficking Awareness Day is observed on January the 11th in municipalities across the country in order to educate the public and raise awareness about human trafficking, and the city of Palm Coast has a strong commitment to social justice. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Palm Coast Mayor and City Council do hereby declare January 2022 as Human Trafficking Awareness Month and urges its residents and champions to support efforts and take action to end human trafficking. Let me just add to that, as these two proclamations were read today, the solution to this are all of the agencies which we have here today, but human trafficking in particular is about each one of us. We tell each other often, if you see something, say something. I can't begin to tell you how many cases, how many children, how many people have been saved from harm because somebody was willing to step up when they saw something that wasn't right and say something. So please always keep that in mind. You can make a bigger difference than all of the agencies put together. So please, do your best. It's really very important. Ladies, let me present that to you.
Thank you so much.
Very good. Would you like to say anything else?
Oh, shoot.
Please.
Hello and good morning. My name is Sadira Smith and I am the Sexual Violence Victim Advocate at Family Life Center. Firstly, I would like to express my deepest gratitude on behalf of FLC for taking the time to acknowledge and bring awareness to the atrocity that is human trafficking. At FLC, my coworkers and I work tirelessly and collaboratively with the Flagler County Police Department and the Freedom 7 Task Force to not only bring awareness to human trafficking, but also to put boots on the ground, to be in the trenches in order to aid, support, and empathize with those who are victimized by its turpitude. Florida is number 3 with regards to the top 10 states with the highest prevalence of human trafficking. Here in Flagler County at FLC, along with our community partners, supporters, and generous donors, we hope to continue our work to serve and protect victims, and hopefully by announcing this proclamation today, our forces will continue to grow as members of the community become increasingly aware of the prevalence of human trafficking so close to home. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Ladies, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, do our best.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it, guys.
I've reorganized the agenda slightly this morning. I wanted to get those proclamations done. So we will now open up public participation as described earlier in the meeting. Are there any members of the public that would like to step forward and comment at this time for items that are not on the agenda? Please.
My name is Karen Neufeld. I am from Palm Coast. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and board members and staff. Can you hear me?
Very well, thank you.
Okay. It is a known fact, swimming is therapeutic. It is healing, soothing, relaxing, and refreshing. It relieves pain, tension, and stress. We have a pool dilemma in Palm Coast. As of January 1st of this year, the school board will be starting construction to put portables all around the Belle Terre pool area. The city is aware of this issue because it gave the school board $25,000 to repair the Belle Terre pool. Belle Terre is the only pool open all year round for us seniors. This pool will no longer be open or available to the senior swimming community in the near future, which leaves those of us who are physically challenged and cannot walk, run, bike, play pickleball, etc., left out. In fact, the Mayor Fitness Challenge doesn't even mention swimming at all. The senior swimming community is not recognized. We are a rapidly growing community with the housing boom. There is new construction going on all over Palm Coast. Presently, there are 100,000 people living here, and in the near future growing to 200,000 people having only one pool. It is not going to cut it. Option is to open the Frida Zamba pool all year round. As of now, it is only open from April to November. This pool has become very overcrowded and loud with all the kids that are busted in for swimming lessons and recreation, leaving open only a couple of lanes for us to use. This pool is not large enough for everyone. We would still have a pool dilemma. The ideal, realistic resolution, build a brand-new aquatic center for the seniors of Palm Coast. We need this. Please don't push us aside. We need this for our mental health and physical health. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
The next speaker, please. Please.
Good morning. Morning. My name is Helen Davis, and first of all, Happy New Year to all of you, and thank you very much for listening to us. What my friend said is true. I'm a perfect example of a person that swims. I swim every day and have done so for the last 20 years. I swim at Frida Zamba, and when that closes, we go over to Belle Terre and we swim. The question of Belle Terre right now is up in the air. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. And I love your idea, Mr. Mayor, about promoting good health. I cannot play pickleball, nor tennis, nor golf. The only thing I can do, and a lot of my friends can do, is just swim. My doctor says to me that if I was not swimming, that I would be in a wheelchair 10 years ago. So I am asking if you folks can keep Zamba open for 12 months out of the year for us. Belle Terre gets very, very busy, especially when they do lessons. The lane that we have a cardiovascular lane that we can go across in. They cut that off, and we have a third of the lane left to go back and forth. We need something for us also. And I have to tell you, we try to solve all the world's problems every day. We're not very successful, however, it does keep our minds working, and hopefully it'll fight off Alzheimer's and what have you. But we are asking for your help and see if you can help us. I know it's silly, it's 39 degrees out, I'm talking about a pool. But you know what, it means so much to us, and we're hoping that you can help us out and keep it open for us so that we can still be active members of the community, that we don't have to sit home and just be couch potatoes and just wait, as they call it, God's waiting room. So we're hoping that you consider us. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay.
Okay, I do speak French, and I hope everybody will understand me. My name is Regine Bernier, reside at 13 Roxing Lane. I have been here for 12 years. My husband and I came to Palm Coast to retire. I love swimming all year round. That's the exercise I benefit the most. The purchase of our home is near Belle Terre Swim Racket Club. I've been a member there for 10 years. We 200 members have fought with the school board to improve the facility. We put our time, effort, and money to improve this facility 6 years ago. Now, we feel that this facility will be taken away from the seniors by limiting us to use it. The facility, as the school want to make it for the youth center only. The facility originally was built for senior who built Palm Coast. As for Frida Zamba swimming pool, it's only open half the year. The school bus goes around the pool and pollute the air with the smell of the diesel as we swim. Not too healthy. The city is growing, people are moving in here in row, and the building everywhere, too many, too fast. We hope you can look into this issue to improve this beautiful city. We have plenty of land to build an Olympic pool, swimming pool. For some of us, it's also a gathering place and make friends and stay healthy. In the summer, pool is so crowded, I go swimming in the ocean. And happy to do so, but at times I would be happier to swim in a pool for safety issue. Thank you for listening to me, and I would appreciate your effort in this matter. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for your comment. The next speaker, please.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Council. Okay. By the way, first and more importantly, congratulations on your election, Honorable Mayor David Alphen. In fact, we need guys like you. Okay.
Sir,
from New
if
York.
if you would just introduce yourself so we can have your name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. My name is more important. Okay, my name is Wilfredo Lleras, living in Palm Coast, 21 years, best decision of my life. I needed a pacemaker. We'll go back to that later. Okay. Briefly, I would like to describe the horrible conditions of the Palm Coast Swimming Club. And really, who is accountable for these conditions? The pools do not have consistent hot water in the showers. Some of the showers don't even have faucets or even handles for the hot or cold water. The showers do not have even shower heads. In addition, the showers, I'm going fast because I got to beat the time. The rusted lockers, no plastic curtains. Oh, zero screens on either door frame. So this way we shower with the flies in the summertime. Not to mention the summer temperature of the showers was over 90 degrees, zero ventilation. Okay, do you believe this is Palm Coast? Really, who is really supervising this facility and getting paid? Presently, the pool is temperature a little bit cold, especially for those beautiful fish children trying to swim and compete with each other. Okay, when they complete swimming, they freeze because of the cold weather. Let's form a plan to resolve these problems. We can purchase 3 heating lamps and have them warm the swimmers when they come out of the water. We can install revolving solar collectors on the roofs of the existing buildings. This will not only warm our future Olympic competitors think over the top, but electrical heat and present pool and heat the present pool and provide electrical and entire complex for the complex. Now, bingo, home run. What electric overage made up, you could sell it back to Florida Bar and Light. Now you have a 0 electric bill. Got to think out of the box. Okay, lastly, and more importantly, we need to build an additional pool to accommodate the present and future home buyers. Developers have many tracts of land, 2 or 3 or 400 houses at a time to be built in Palm Coast. Please remember, lack of transparency leads to animosity. And if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Thank you for listening to your community. God bless, and God bless America. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please. Go ahead. Everyone will get their chance to speak, not a problem.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. In January 2000, the Palm Coast population...
I'm sorry, if you
Oh,
would...
I'm sorry, my name is Joanne Clark.
Thank you.
Sorry. In January of 2000, the population of Palm Coast was a little over 29,000. Today, it's around 94,000, and that number is expected to increase around 200,000 as the community grows. And in all of this, the city has 1 pool. 1. Some folks have backyard pools, gated communities have pools, but the rest of us, 1. That 1 pool is a Frida Zamba pool. Even though that pool has propane tanks to heat it, it is only open from April to November. The Belle Terre Swim and Racket Club was given to the school district back when ITT had a presence in the community. That pool is open year-round. The future use of Belle Terre pools to the general public is of question. And if you don't know, there were 2 to 3 lap lanes for the die-hard swimmers. And then there was a free swim lane for the remaining folks. During the summer, the free swim lane is usually cut in half for swimming lessons. So that leaves a very tiny area for many people. The pool is so crowded in summer, one can barely move, and just treading water for exercise is difficult due to the high occupancy. The pool is a lifesaver for us seniors. It is where most of us get our daily exercise for strength to increase our mobility. It is social time to meet our friends, which improves our mental stimulation and lessens depression. Some of us go every day, others a few times a week, and hours are spent there. When we go, it's raining, and even if there's a chill in the air. The pool is not free. Many have an insurance plan that pays the facility with each usage. Others pay a monthly or daily charge. It is essential that the seniors of Palm Coast have a pool to swim in, preferably one solely for seniors, one with easy access for disabled people, free from crowds and fear of being injured due to overcrowding and roughhousing. Some of us don't have much time left, so please do not forget the seniors of Palm Coast. And in order for this amazing heart of mine to keep beating, I need to keep swimming. Thank you.
And thank you for your comment. The next speaker, please.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Mary Croson. I moved here 6 years ago from Springfield, Missouri. It may be warmer there today, I'm not sure. I'm also a part of the swimming community, so I really do appreciate all the comments. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here on behalf of your search for a city manager. I commend you in narrowing the search from 86 to 3. I did read all the resumes, and they all are commendable. One stands out to me, James Manfrey. As an elected official, he was involved in attracting large commercial and residential projects to Palm Coast. He served as in-house counsel to an investment entity, assistant district attorney, maintained a private practice covering land development companies, served as deputy town attorney, and as assistant district attorney, all culminating in a mixture of public and private service. Those positions were deeply seated in economic development, crime prevention, preservation of wildlife, conservation furthering, with a substantial history of Palm Coast, having been a resident here in 1999. So that sets him apart from the others as far as his passion for the community and raising a family here and being involved in the organizations. With these experiments, James would be easily and transparently able to direct day-to-day operations, prepare the annual budget, oversee personnel matters, recommend policies or programs to the city council, keep the council fully advised of the financial conditions of the city, and supply the council with information to aid decision-making. So how much better would it be to use our resources that we would put toward finding a new city manager, toward a new pool, or some other resource, more parks, more trails, which I enjoy as well. Thank you so much.
And thank you for your comment. The next speaker, please.
Good morning, Good morning, Mayor and Council. Jane Gentile Yude, Plantation Bay, resident of Flagler County, not Palm Coast. I am here on an issue that I also will bring forward to the county at large. Neither Palm Coast nor Flagler County have an ordinance prohibiting campaign signs on, I'm not talking about on residential property, on a time schedule prior to election. I think it is despicable, personally, for any campaign signs on properties that are visible from the streets to be allowed to be placed by any candidate prior to the day of qualifying. Qualifying this year is June 13th. Many people have put their names in already and opened accounts, including myself. I would not put a sign before formally qualifying, because until June 13th, anyone who is a prospective candidate can close their account, just not run, and that's it. If we allow signs now, there are signs now in Palm Coast. The whole county will look like a garbage dump. There is no reason, personally, I'm totally opposed to signs, but I'm gonna put my own too, because.
Jane, I just have to caution you, no campaigning from.
Sorry. Okay, I'm so sorry. I think campaign signs I think an ordinance should be enacted by all the cities in Flagler County, including the county, prohibiting signs anywhere visible on streets, whatever, prior to the official qualifying day with the Department of Elections. It is imperative to keep the county clean. The signs are trashed, they're knocked down. They certainly do not add to the ambience that Palm Coast is trying to keep. I very much admire your landscaping. I think it's fabulous. The signs will destroy everything. Please, you have it, there is an ordinance that signs must be removed after an election within, I think, 15 days. But to allow signs whenever somebody wants to put them is going to disgrace and garbage, make the city look like crap. Please pass an ordinance limiting campaign signs to not one day before someone officially qualifies for office, to keep the city clean and the county. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. And the next speaker, please approach.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Dalva Smith, and my concern is trash. Everyone here owns homes, and it seems like the city is allowing builders to build. Trash is everywhere. They're disrespectful to the lawns. I have contacted a builder personally almost weekly since July. Nothing done. I get citations when my property is not maintained. What about the builders? Please address this. It's just real simple. Please address it. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your comment.
Good morning. My name is Denise. I live in the R section. My last name is Watkins. I moved here 3 years ago to be near my 7 grandchildren.
And my daughters kept telling me how wonderful Palm Coast was. Great place to live, raise the grandkids. I contacted triple negative breast cancer 6 years ago and retired here to be near them in case anything else happens. Praise God that I have made it through. Unfortunately, not without its issues. I spend a lot of time sick in my bed. Recently, 3 years ago, the first year here was absolutely wonderful. Met a lot of wonderful people. The second year, we started having issues because we live at the corner of Raintree and Ray, where the stop sign is, where people were waiting for their children to get off the school bus and started boomboxing it, making my windows vibrate, actually, and my 3 chihuahuas going off for about 15, 20 minutes. Now, this happens every day, but I got used to that. We simply asked a woman if she could just politely keep it down. She's agreed, and we haven't had a problem with that since. However, recently, there has been 2 Mustangs that are driven by young gentlemen that are blowing their headers out several times a day, sitting at the stop sign and blowing it out. I think they have found out that we have contacted the sheriff department several times. I have screenshotted several messages I have sent them regarding this, and I had an officer had to come out yesterday because 5 streets away, a gentleman bought, the same gentlemen that are blowing their headers out, bought speakers and wanted to test them out. For over an hour, we listened to this god-awful music 5 streets away, boom boxes going that were actually so loud I could hear it through my bedroom window. So I called an officer. He arrived at my house. He went down there. They did turn it down, told him they had just bought the speakers and what have you. And I said, okay, if you deal with him again, tell him I appreciate it if he would keep that down. Well, we brought up the issue about the headers and them blowing the headers out. He said it was illegal for him to pull them over for that. And I said, but it's not illegal for them to interrupt my privacy all day long, off and on, blowing these headers and sitting at the stop sign doing this. And common sense tells you, sir, that you have to be doing faster than 15 miles an hour to blow those headers out, which means they are racing up and down, which they have been doing. I have contacted the sheriff's department so many times that I can count on both my hands. Regarding this, I have screenshotted every photo and have screenshotted them so that I could forward them to Governor DeSantis about the problem I'm having here that seems not being addressed. And that's my problem. This should not be happening. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. The next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name's Nancy Zeter, and I'm in the C-section. And I wanted to talk about the nice amenities that are here, and I appreciate the bike trails. I know people travel from other towns to come and bike ride here. We could always use more, but they're awesome. And I think it's important to have these kind of amenities that attract families and multiple age groups. The swimming pool was a good point. I agree with that. And I wanted to address the canals, where there seems to be a problem that it's never been dredged since the very beginning, and it's been a great attraction for our city. There seems to be debris building in there, and I know some folks with sailboats that can't even get their boats in and out and have to watch the tides. And so that's one thing that I hope that would get addressed. As well as pickleball, I know people have to travel out of Palm Coast to go play pickleball. And those are the kinds of things that would be great for all ages up to a point, and attract families and keep our teenagers busy. Anything to help keep the teenagers busy and out of trouble, I'm in favor for. Like maybe, I don't know, the Olympic-sized pool, activities at the community center, and all kinds of sports. The canals would be great to have kayak contest and stand-up paddle boards that are so popular now, and those kinds of things to attract folks to Palm Coast. It's a beautiful city. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you for your comment. The next speaker, please.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Mike Cochio. I live here in Palm Coast. There are two issues I want to address today. One is, of course, there's already been spoken to about city manager. We have a beautiful city. It's a jewel in the crown of not only Flagler, but in Florida. And it's going along and it's moving very quickly, but it's moving well. Right now, I believe you are seeking a contract with a recruiter to go out and maybe at a nationwide search to recruit a new city manager, a new permanent city manager. We've done that before. The last time, we got somebody from somewhere in the far northwest who knew nothing about Florida or Flagler County or Palm Coast, and that did not go well. When you hire that far out, you get somebody who does not know the character and ambiance, the issues of our city, what makes the city great and what needs fixing in the city. So I'm encouraging strongly that you reconsider that and you recruit from within. People, I think the two greatest qualities that we need in a new city manager, and we've already got that with our current interim, thank you, doing a beautiful job. But anyway, leadership, that's first. You don't need technical skills. You can hire technical skills. Your job as city manager is to bring those skills forward from the city staff. And we have one of the best city staffs I've ever come across. Two is knowledge of Flagler, knowledge of Palm Coast, knowledge again of what the issues are, what our strengths are, that kind of thing. You bring in somebody from the far northwest, again, they take a year to two to understand this city, a year to two, and they never really get it. Because unless you've grown up in this, and understanding the character and character and ambiance of the city, you don't get it. You can manage, but you can't really lead. Second issue, so again, I urge you to recruit from within. Second issue is the water system, the intracoastal and the canal system. When I retired from the federal government, I came here, I had a boat, and in fact, I came here, and what drew me to Palm Coast was the water system and the canal, the Palm Coast City Marina. It's on Palm Harbor Drive. A lot of people don't even know we have a marina, but we do, and it's privately held. I'm going to encourage the city to do all it can to get control of that marina before it falls into the waterway due to lack of investment by the current owner. The waterway, the coastal waterway, is the water highway to Palm Coast. And what people see when they come in is our marina, and I can't tell you, having worked 8 years at that marina after I retired, how many people decided to live in Palm Coast, to buy in Palm Coast, and invest in Palm Coast because of the Intercoastal Waterway and the canal system. So I urge you to protect both the Intercoastal Waterway that we have, I think something on our city, and to do something with the canals to keep them open so people will continue to come here and buy into our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. The next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Lydia Radin, and I live at 71 Waters Drive, Palm Coast. My family's lived here for 8 years. I'm here to speak about the future of Belle Terre Swim and Racket Club. And what the ladies did not tell you was there was a petition that was delivered to the mayor that was signed by 562 people. And before we start talking about spending more of our taxpayer money on a big pool, and before we start talking about opening up Frida Zamba for the months that it's closed, let's talk about what's happening at the Belle Terre Swim Club. When was the proposal made at the school board? When was it voted on? When did we get a chance to respond to it? We tried going and working with the school board, and what we got from, with all due respect, what we got, the feedback we got from the superintendent was phase one is going through, and I'm speaking freely, phase one is going through, shut up, and don't ask any questions. This is not about the pool. It's about the pool, the sauna, and the gym, and the tennis courts. Phase one went through in a bullying, not transparent, steamrolling fashion. There's 1,200 members. The listening session that was given was a few days' notice with 70 people who showed up. The pool is not just for seniors. 20-year-olds go. They spend money to use the gym and the sauna every month. 30-year-olds go. Fluid, which is a private swim club, pays a lot of money to be at the Belle Terre Swim Club. The city of Palm Coast pays $25,000 a year. The community volunteered, if it's a matter of money, to make repairs up to code. The community members volunteered to increase memberships. Could we have a sign on Belle Terre, we have to ask permission from the commissioners, that says year-round heated pool with sauna and gym, and you'd increase memberships in a heartbeat. So before we start doing anything else, why can't we get a straight answer from the superintendent and the school board? If we're going to put up portables on the tennis courts that are back there, was there an open contract? What is it bid on? How is it being paid for? So far, the proposal has gone through and we're told to shut up and take it. That is not an appropriate response. Do we need another youth center? Aren't there two? We need to have a discussion with the mayor. We've got over 500 people who are concerned. And by the way, we're doing free labor to deal with an issue that's going to impact on our lives. So I'd like a meeting with the mayor, please.
Very good. Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Alan Lowe. I would like to thank the unknown staff member that took the time to respond to my concerns regarding the saltwater canal dredging question that I brought up at the last business meeting. I don't know who it is, but I appreciate it. They sent me an email, but it wasn't signed. Of the numerous times that I've stood at the podium and asked questions, this is the first time the city has responded in writing. And again, thank you. In that response, it was stated that the city hired an outside company and that at least on a few of the questions, the city provided input. If memory serves me correctly, at a city council meeting during the previous public survey, the city council instructed the city manager to have staff present survey questions to council for review. Did the council review these questions? And if so, did you approve them? In 1970, ITT Levitt, as it was known at the time, received permits to dig the Palm Coast saltwater canals. I find no documentation that ITT, in any of its forms, transferred ownership of the canals to any other entity in Palm Coast, until Palm Coast became a city. When Palm Coast became a city, it acquired ITT assets, including the canals. I can find no documentation where the city transferred ownership to any other entity. Thus, in my opinion, the city owns the saltwater canal system and via ownership, the responsibility of maintenance. The silt coming into the canals through the stormwater overflow system and street drains is causing issues. There is precedent that on April 27, 2010, the city took responsibility when siltation caused a navigation hazard and authorized an emergency dredging of a canal. Therefore, the city recognized its responsibility. On March 20th, 2005, the city again took the responsibility and had all canal depths measured. All canals are shallower than the original permitted design depth of 12 feet for the main canals and 8 for the finger canals. On September 18th of 2018, the then sitting city council increased the stormwater rates. The rate increase was estimated to generate $74.7 million between 2019 and 2024. In an Observer article of the same date, it states that this money will let the city do more to maintain, among other things, the 26 miles of saltwater canals. I believe the city has ownership and a responsibility to maintain its assets. Whether the canals are an amenity or part of the stormwater drainage system, the city needs to plan now to budget for the much-needed future maintenance. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other speakers that would like to address the podium this morning? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Gary Kunis from C-Section. Refer to your questionnaire number 17. Requests people to decide whether to dredge the canals. But y'all loaded the question by adding in remains toxic material from the canals. But you did not mention that the dredging company takes it, puts it in their field for 2 years, and he gives it away or sells it for topsoil or fill. Should have been added in that question, because most people would just see that and they say, no, this is going to be toxic. That's not necessarily true. When you raise the water bill to dredge the freshwater canals, toxic never came up. Not a word. By dredging those canals, you also increase the flow, so when you have the king tides and stormwater tide increases, it has more places to flow. And that's not mentioned there at all. It's a loaded question, and I think it should be discarded and reworded and sent out again. That's it.
Thank you for your comment. Any remaining speakers this morning?
My name is Raymond McKinney. I just have some very brief remarks to make. I would solely like to address the application to keep the city swimming pool in Frida Zamba open year-round. Any decision pertaining to that, I believe, should be made in light of the expenses to the city for the golf course, for the tennis center, and for the boat basin. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any additional speakers this morning? Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Frank Adis. I'm at 15 Crandon Court in Palm Coast. All I have are questions. I'd like to reiterate the issues that the two previous parties mentioned about the saltwater canals. I also want to ask adjacent properties that don't have seawalls. You've got a lot of erosion going in. I support the people with the swimming pool requests. I can't swim my canal because my arms touch the sand. I can doggy paddle, but that's just not going to cut it for me. Where can I get information to find out how we can help to get information for you? I think it's critical from the standpoint our properties are raised up real high. Water's got to go somewhere. When the canals are full of silt, the waters are going to come up even higher, and it's my belief that the water canal systems are critical to water runoff and critical to Palm Coast, because it certainly is an amenity that I believe people look to and say, wow, I'd really like to live there because of the waterways. So anything we can do, I would love to see written comments as to what the process has been and where we can get information to assist you do your job. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any remaining speakers? Yes, sir.
My name is Glenn Partlow. I live on Eastwood Drive in Palm Coast. I've lived here for 13 years and I swim at both pools year-round. Obviously, this time of the year I'm at Belle Terre. The school system is having a lot of difficulty running that pool and running the area. They can't keep up with maintenance, and the room at the pool is very limited. Perhaps you might know that both pools are old. They're inadequate. Both high schools, of which I coached one for 10 years, cannot have normal competitions in either pool because they simply aren't deep enough. Frida is well staffed. They do a great job protecting the people who go there. Belle Terre rarely has a lifeguard on duty. Can you imagine somebody falling, somebody drowning, somebody in distress, and they have to find somebody inside the building, tear themselves away from checking people in, many times not dressed for jumping in the pool and helping. That's a major issue for a city that's going to be this big and does not have enough room at either pool for adequate supervision or adequate use. The school system at one point suggested that we'd have both high school swim teams at Belle Terre. Can you imagine 60 people in 6 lanes? Totally impossible. For some years, we did practice with 2 teams at Frida Zamba when Belle Terre was not usable. Again, 60 kids in 6 lanes. There was no room for any other program unless we pushed the kids off maybe into 5 lanes. It was nearly impossible. I think for a school system, a city this large, you need to have somebody start to investigate building a larger facility that can also support handicapped people getting into the water in a shallow area. Many communities around Florida I've been to, and they have such facilities. We're inadequate here, and we need your support for a bigger system. Thank you. I'm on a freshwater canal. The company you guys hired is just terrible. They're months and months behind schedule. My canal in the back smells terrible. And if you're going to hire somebody to do saltwater canals, you better hire somebody reliable. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there another speaker this morning? See? Yes, sir.
I'm Al Cryer from the Safety on Cimarron Committee, and last meeting I gave out a report of all the different streets that have to come through Cimarron, and we felt best to put a supplement in this week. Last week we mainly talked about all the taxes that came out of these homes, the 800 residents that have to go through Cimarron. Again, we have listed all these streets. It starts at the sanctuary with 7 streets. Then we have 14 side streets that go through Cimarron. And the objective of this supplement is we wanted to convert this to the miles of road that have to filter through Cimarron to go any place, which creates the unsafe situation. So what we did, the week of January 10th, we went out and measured all these roads by car, by bike, and also using maps. We checked to make sure the map mileage was correct. The sanctuary being restricted in that area, we did use the map miles on that one. So if you turn your sheets over, and I gave Virginia a copy of this, and everybody has a copy here to make part as a permanent file. Just breaking it down, in the sanctuary, those 7 streets, there's 1.9 miles of roadway. Of course, Cimarron, which you've heard many times, has 1.2 miles. Now, all these 14 side streets that have to go through Cimarron, they account for 5.9 miles. And the point I'm getting at is you add these 3 figures up, it comes to 9 miles of roadway that has to filter through Cimarron. Now, last year, one time, they had mentioned the collector streets as 50 miles, total miles in collector streets, of which all these are is collector streets. And some of these collector streets also need attention. But the point I want to make is that, hey, here we've got 9 miles of the 50 miles. If we tackle 1.2, and I know we got to start someplace, and you people have moved along. I can't thank you enough for that. But we have to start someplace, and I feel that Cimarron, we have to look at it as maybe the place to start. So I took up my time here. Again, I want to thank everybody, and I always end this way, that this is a nice place to live, and I like being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Last call, for, yep, yes, sir.
Morning, Mayor. About 6 months ago.
Go ahead, just identify
I'm
yourself for
sorry,
the record, please.
Paul
Thank you.
Vargo, 21 Colorado.
Thank you.
You're welcome. About 6 months ago, I was here in support of what I called at the time the Canal Health, okay? And part of that included the repair of certain seawalls, the dredging, and plus, as you know, the graffiti on the bridge, which you took care of, and I appreciate that. That looks real good now. What I did further was look at, and I got this, you have to do some digging on the internet, as everybody knows, but I got an economic benefits of the district waterways, and that's Flagler County. It's presented in there. And I don't want to bore you with a whole lot of numbers and all, but some of those economic benefits are in the millions, hundreds of millions of dollars just for the waterways, which I know there's going to be some concern about the cost of this canal and the fixing up of it. However, I think there's ways to get that done. And looking at this now, this here is about from 2017. Okay, so some of those numbers are even greater today than they were then. Roughly, there's about 6,200 boats registered in Flagler County. If we look at the importance of boating in Florida, I think as most of you know, boating in Florida, Florida's the #1 state, okay, for boating. There's roughly just a little under 1 million boats registered. The only other two states that come close are Michigan and Minnesota, which I thought was interesting. You know, you got to go way up there to the Great Lakes, I guess, to see that. And they're a distant second and third. So stressing the importance of the boating also stresses the importance of the canals, which I know you're all well aware of. So if I could, I can leave a copy of this with you, right? And you can just have some numbers instead of going over all of that stuff. It was, the model was a hedonic model, okay, which I think a lot of you are familiar with in the real estate area and the values that it does bring to the homes. Thank you.
Thank you. If you just deliver that to the clerk, that would be very nice. Thank you. Are there any remaining speakers at this time? Seeing no one, I will just make a comment on public participation. I'm sorry, is there one more? Oh. Oh. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Linda Charbonneau, and I live in Hidden Lakes. At the entrance to Toscana and Hidden Lakes across the street on Old Kings Road.
Wait, may I ask you, would you like to wait and make your comment? That's an agenda item coming up.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that. I just
Okay.
want to, I emailed you regarding this, but you never responded to me about
So
that.
we have an agenda item coming up. If you could hold your comment just for a little bit and then come back up. Would that be okay?
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. So I will, seeing no other, yeah, you've already been up once. Okay, thank you. I will close public participation at this time, but let me make a comment. City staff has already been roving through the audience to make sure that we collect all of the information with those speakers that had a question. On our city website, the Palm Coast Connect page in particular, we will open up a case for each of the comments that are made so that we can track progress, because your question may actually involve several staff members, different departments. Rarely are the questions simple and straightforward, and as I've told everyone since I took office, I want to make sure that the answers that you receive are complete, transparent, accurate, and you get all of the information that city staff has available for you. So just note that the interim city manager is making note of each of your comments every time that we have a public speaking. Okay. Now, I'll go back to the agenda for a moment. Would the sheriff like to make a presentation at this time, or?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mayor and City Council. There's no formal presentation, just the Sheriff's Office. Chief Welker is here for discussion.
Okay, would you like to wait? Should we have questions to call on you? Is that what I understand?
He's ready now.
Please. Good morning, Chief Welker.
Good morning. My name is John Welker. I'm the division chief that oversees the community policing division for the Sheriff's Office, essentially our road patrol division. I know there's been some discussion recently amongst the city and the council and staff about switching the celebration from the 3rd of July to the 4th. And I'm just here to take a moment of your time to discuss the impacts that may have on the Sheriff's Office. I know there's been some things in the media and other comments, and I know the staff's addressed it as well. But I'd like to provide an opportunity for me to answer some questions, but most importantly, to give you a little insight from our perspective. We're very fortunate in this county to have very positive community partnerships. The cities, the municipalities, the county government, and all the agencies involved work really, really well together. And that really is the reason that we're able to do the events that we do currently on the 2 separate days, specifically to Independence Day celebrations, but the events we do throughout the year. The concern comes is when we move and merge these events and have 2 simultaneous, or potentially 3, if the Freedom Fest remains as well, is that it will strain not only the manpower resources of the Sheriff's Office, but the other 7+ entities that may be involved in both events. Additionally to that, there's a lot of issues, some that we can quantify, some that we can't, that we have to take into consideration as part of the public safety aspect of this. The population increase to our community, we all know, has exploded. We don't know what that means for these events, as we really haven't seen an event in the county that hasn't been addressed with COVID. Additionally, other communities are considering canceling events or may cancel events, which drives that celebratory community and population to our events as well. With increased population comes increased traffic that we're all aware of. We feel it on our roadways. You as city officials are having to deal with it. That doesn't change for the Sheriff's Office. We'll need to have staff to address just the normal things that come with a holiday weekend. Pushing both of these events together, although we've been able to handle them without a doubt on 2 separate occasions in the past, will strain our resources, not just for us, but for the other entities involved, whether it's the city employees, the fire departments, and those involved. Taking into light all the things, what we can do is we can plan for our events based on what the city decides as far as when it'll happen, where it'll be located. All those things we can anticipate and prepare for other contingencies. It's the unanticipated things that we're concerned of. And one of the things that I haven't seen discussed is when you're running 2 or potentially 3 large scale events in communities, that's tasking our resources. If we were to have an event, whether it was to occur at one of those specific events or somewhere else in the county, we're going to need poor resources to address that. And that will take from either one of the events or from the county or for all the events, depending on the scope of that. So I'd just like that to be considered. Regardless of all the information that we have and all the things I've mentioned here, I want to assure you that the Sheriff's Office, and I'm sure other partners in the community, will do everything we can and put all the effort forward to maintain a safe environment for our community so that they can celebrate the holiday. I appreciate your time, and would love to answer any questions if you have any.
Chief, thank you for the presentation. So let me start with City Council. So while we have the expert here, why questions?
What is your recommendation for 4th of July or the Freedom Fest?
Let me get him off the hook. It's my understanding the sheriff is not going to make a recommendation, probably should not be put in that position. We should, if I may, we should use the sheriff as a resource and an expert, but the decision will be City Council's. So can you ask your question in a different way?
No.
I appreciate
So
what you said, sir.
if I may, Councilman, let me try. The priority of safety concerns for residents is what we share. So how can we best protect our residents during the celebrations
Well,
with your limited manpower?
that is our ultimate goal on a daily basis, whether it's for special events or anything. The concern that raises and what's been expressed by myself and those others involved is we have limited resources, and in the past, a lot of those resources are shared amongst the cities, whether it's the message boards, cones, traffic direction, and things like that. That creates a concern in and of itself because those are a huge portion of how we provide the safety with these events. In addition to that, the sheriff's office manpower being strained between potentially 3, but if not 2, does stress our resources because we're still expected to provide the highest level of safety to the community through the rest of the county, which on holiday weekends, as you all aware and we all experience an increase in traffic, calls for service, and things of that nature. To be able to do this, we're going to have to adjust who's working the road, how many we can staff the road, and there's some concern, and I know the sheriff has expressed this, it is a holiday. And as a result of that, whether it's the sheriff's office or other community safety providers, there are people that celebrate that holiday with their family, and what could potentially happen is for us to be able to safely staff all these events in addition to our normal increased calls for service on the road through the holiday, we may find ourselves in a position where we're canceling leave or ordering people in.
And just a comment, and I'll come right back. So the country has experienced some horrific events and tragedies in public venues over this past year and before. I haven't heard you mention that, but I have to assume that that would just bust the resources out in terms of being prepared for those kind of eventualities. Without getting into detail, because we're certainly not like looking to, attract something like that, but I assume you would have to be prepared for that as well.
Well, the days of just preparing for the anticipated concerns, size of the crowd, whether or not alcohol is served, traffic concerns, traffic checkpoints, pedestrian traffic, we now have to prepare for the unanticipated. And what we all know, and it's unfortunate that we live in these times, a parade is no longer just a parade, especially when it comes to those charged with the safety of the community. I don't get to go to a parade as a law enforcement officer and stand on the side and watch the vehicles go by and wave and enjoy the crowds and the smiles. I have to worry about the unanticipated, the things, the evil that lurks in the darkness, and how to address those and prevent that from affecting our community.
Thank you. Councilman, go ahead and ask your question.
Just something else for clarification. I know the city of Palm Coast talked about joining Freedom Fest. Is also the Flagler Beach talking about joining Freedom Fest, or they're not in that talk?
So Freedom Festival will go back to its annual traditional date in November. It was just this one special year last year that Freedom Festival was at July 3rd, and that's due to the COVID concerns and the availability of the pilots. So Freedom Festival particular will go back to its normal November event date.
Okay, so the 4th of July event.
The 4th of July event, what city staff proposed was moving our July 3rd event from the park to the airport, so we'd have a larger venue.
And is Flagler Beach in that talk, or no?
We considered Flagler Beach as sharing our resources, so city staff was just proposing a location change and still working with Flagler Beach for their July 4th.
Councilman Danko, question?
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have no doubt that regardless of what we do, if there is a 4th of July in Flagler Beach and here in Palm Coast, no doubt your department will be able to handle it. You will be strained, but I have the full confidence that you can handle whatever we throw at you. But my question is, if we were to work an agreement with Flagler Beach where we alternated the 4th of July and the 3rd of July, where we do it one year on the 4th, they do it the next year on the 4th, we do it on the 3rd. That would make your life a little easier, correct?
I don't know that it would make my life any
Well,
easier.
your
sir.
department life's easier.
I just jest with you to get a smile and a laugh out of everybody. My life's going to be difficult no matter what we choose
Right,
to do.
right.
Distribute the resources better.
But would that help you with resources and?
I don't want to provide any direction on what the city chooses or what either city, and it's difficult for me to do that on behalf of the sheriff in that position.
Council,
I
certainly
think-
distribution of the resources would be.
Yeah, distribution
With
of
common
resources.
sense. Common sense.
What I am expressing to you is there are only so many resources at the sheriff's office and in any public and community safety entity. And the more that we're tasked with, the quicker we risk task saturation, and we won't be able to provide the same level of service that you just expressed that you expect from us. And that's always our goal, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
Do you want to hear the other comments first? Or
well,
do you want-
I just want to say that from my own perspective, I understand the resources being thinned out, and safety is of the utmost importance, especially, we don't know what can happen in today's world. I was a little disheartened to see Flagler Beach, no pun intended, sort of digging their heels in the sand over the 4th of July. I do propose that we consider alternating this date with them. I think that is the fair thing to do and the right thing to do, and then we'll always have 2 sets of fireworks that people can both go enjoy, and we get to work with our neighbors instead of fight with them. So I'm just tossing this out to council as a
Let's
suggestion.
listen to the rest of the comments and then come back to that. I would just add one footnote to your excellent comment, is that it would be my understanding that Flagler Beach may not have a pier even next year, so it would probably be their last hurrah.
Yeah,
for
maybe
the-
so.
For the mouse that roared.
Sure, yeah, thank you for your presentation, and I would just summarize in saying my understanding, and I think the rest of our council members, that the Sheriff's Office resources are optimized in regards to resiliency when we have separate events, and I think that is black and white, and it's pretty cut and dry for our council to understand, and I appreciate you being here today, so thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Chief Walker. Let me see if I could ease up your pains. If anybody, I would venture to say that if anybody here understands what logistics are regarding safety, it's me, due to the fact that when I was a detective, I was considered non-essential personnel. And sometimes, as you know, we in the police business, we have no holidays, no such thing. If you're lucky enough for your days off fall in a holiday, you're lucky enough. Other than that, it's tough. And to take you up, let's say you're lucky enough not to have a holiday, not to have your day off fall in a holiday, taking you out of your house, of your family, to bring you in something that we could just ram without the cities as to what to do, I think would be unfair in every possible way. I said here last week that alternation should be the way to do it. So this way, Flagler Beach and us could do it in a fair way. Okay. As far as Councilman Danko said, I think that's the way we should do it, not to strain you. But eventually, some of you guys are going to get hurt having 2 days because you're not going to get your holidays. But that, I think, is the least of the problems because you guys are fighters. You guys will do anything, especially in those days, to help this community. Without you, we would be going nowhere. Okay, so you are my brothers in arms. I completely agree with what Councilman Danko said. I think we should have maybe the mayor or the city manager speak with this committee. I believe there's a committee, and the 4th of July committee, and if possible, at both days, the 3rd and the 4th, okay, and alternate them different years. We are elected officials. We're here to represent you, to help you, to do whatever it's good for you, you people, and including you in there. So I just think that we should, if there's okay with Parks and Recreation, because I don't know, maybe there's something I'm not seeing, I think that the mayor possibly and the city manager should get together either with this commission, I don't know if it's legal for them to do it, and discuss the possibility of coming up with this solution, not to overload the sheriffs and city staff, okay? Not to overload anybody and still please a lot of people. And once again, one of my worries was hurting the merchants at Flagler Beach. If we do it on the 3rd, for example, and they do it on the 4th, they're still gonna have people on the 3rd and on the 4th. They're gonna have 2 days instead of 1. So it's good for the people. So I just want the people of the commission and my colleagues at Flagler Beach to think about it. If we do it in the alternate way, it's a win-win situation, especially for the merchants at Flagler Beach.
Vice Mayor, thank you for your comments, and Councilman Danko as well. So if you will permit me, interim city manager, myself, we'll have that collaborative discussion with the city of Flagler Beach. It's always in everyone's best interest to find a common solution that fits both actually our one larger community. And we will bring back to City Council the salient points that are most important, safety, of course, being the first, and any other considerations so that we can, agree on consensus. And we will do that, quickly, because I know that there are long-term planning strategies, and we appreciate your input today in answering the questions. And I just want to end this discussion today with one other point. So we're talking about the fireworks celebration, and I understand bigger is better.
Bigger's always better.
And I understand 2 bites of the apple is good, but I just would like to reel this back into one thing. We will be celebrating the Declaration of our Independence. There are 1,320 words in our Declaration of Independence. 56 people, not unlike us, but several centuries ago, wrote it and signed it. They signed it on August the 2nd, 1776. Independence from Britain was voted on July 2nd, 1776. The Declaration was in fact printed on July the 4th, 1776. I just share these facts because many of you are aware that there currently is a mayor's challenge going on now, and I'm going to challenge you again. This will be a new mayor's challenge. I'm going to challenge myself and each one of my fellow city councilmen to read those 1,320 words. I'm going to challenge each member of our city staff to read those 1,320 words. I'm going to challenge our entire city of Palm Coast and whoever else will listen to read those 1,320 words. And here's why. Read it for yourself. It is a fluent, it is a beautiful piece of writing. Read it for yourself, interpret it for yourself, and make your own judgments for itself. Don't let others tell you what it means. Find out what it means for you. And once you're armed with that, celebrate 2 great days of the 4th of July celebration here in Flagler County. Thank you. Thank you. With that, we'll have one more presentation, which is employee recognition, please. Who's the lucky person?
That's me. So, good morning, Mayor and Council. We are going to play a little bit of catch-up. The last employee recognition video you saw was in November. So we skipped December, so this one is a little longer, but these are our employees that we're going to recognize that have gone above and beyond to do a great job for the city of Palm Coast.
I
want to put spotlight on Pamela Miller, Rebecca Sanders, Michelle Romez, and Cynthia Piccio for recently going above and beyond in their job duties to help residents in Palm Coast with their concerns and working with them until they found a solution to their issues. Thank you for providing exceptional customer service.
I want to say thank you to some outstanding employees working in our utility department and who went above and beyond to deliver for our residents. First, utility tech Tracy Ann Hodges and Tom Bechtrom assisted a resident who had a sewer backup inside their home. The resident had recently undergone back surgery, and Tracy and Tom worked quickly and efficiently to correct the issue as soon as possible. Similarly, utility tech James Potter assisted a resident with a sewer backup into his home. His quick work and professionalism was greatly appreciated by the homeowner. No one enjoys having a sewer backup in their home, and it can be an overwhelming experience for the resident. So thank you to the team for solving the problem.
I want to say a sincere thank you to our research and development team for their hard work in creating the awesome Mayor's 3030 online interface, as well as the interactive map that allowed Palm Coast residents to enjoy hometown holiday light displays during the annual holiday light fight. Launching these applications is no small feat, and many hours of planning and trial and error go into their creation. Thank you again. I'd also like to congratulate GIS specialist Kathy Almberg on recently passing her GISP exam. This is a giant step towards earning her GIS professional certification, which is a hard-earned and well-deserved accomplishment. Congratulations, Kathy.
I want to say congratulations to Palm Coast Fire Lieutenant Jeff Nunziato for being awarded the 2021 Fire Service Medal and Certificate by the Flagler Chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution. This is a tremendous honor, and we're so proud to have him working with us. Great job, LT. This December, the Palm Coast Fire Department and the Professional Firefighters Local 4807 were once again successful in spreading holiday cheer by hosting the 3rd annual Heroes and Helpers Holiday Celebration. This event was hosted by the Palm Coast Firefighters Local 4807 and their local charity, the Palm Coast Firefighters Benevolent Fund. This event would not have been the great success that it was without the hard work and dedication of the men and women who volunteered their time, and certainly not without the efforts of Lieutenant Patrick Giuliano, Lieutenant Jennifer Fiveash, and Firefighter Christopher Stroger, who coordinated the event. Thank you for all that you do. Great job to the Palm Coast Firefighters.
I would like to give a shout out to our building inspector, Mark Gibson, who recently received a note of appreciation from a Flagler Beach resident who had a question about the plumbing in their home. Although not a resident of Palm Coast, Mark took the time to help her get the information she needed. Thank you, Mark, for going the extra mile to help. I'd also like to say thank you to Tom Stoffaker, Margaret DeFrites, Barbie Bembry, Ken Sando, and Chris Piscatelli, who all received outstanding remarks from residents. Great job, and keep up the good work.
I want to spotlight our procurement team for the amazing effort they put into simplifying the procurement process by revising the ordinance, creating efficiencies, and developing citywide training. Procurement is a crucial part of the governing process, and any amendments or updates must be made with care and attention to detail. This project began in April of 2019 and is indicative of the hard work and dedication of our staff and their commitment to the residents of Palm Coast.
I would like to say a huge thank you to the entire Parks and Recreation Department for all of their incredible work during our holiday event season in 2021, including the annual tree lighting ceremony, Starlight Festival, and our holiday light fight. Their hard work and dedication shows everything they do, and the result was another amazing holiday season here in Palm Coast. I would also like to thank our awesome public information and engagement team for always doing their best to keep residents informed and engaged, whether through social media videos, email, in print. During an emergency situation, they are always here for the voice for our city. Finally, I would like to give a shout out to our incredible staff working at the city clerk's office for all the things that they do behind the scenes to make sure our day-to-day operations here run smoothly. Thank you for your dedication to the city.
I would like to acknowledge Derek Conklin, Mike Lowry, and Anthony Bavacqua of our Public Works Department, who work very hard to keep our major parkways, curbing, and drainage systems debris-free each week. This team covers over 65 miles of curbing, clearing sand, aggregate, or other sediment that can be dangerous to vehicles, motorcyclists, and pedestrians alike. Thank you for your efforts to keep Palm Coast beautiful.
I would also like to recognize Wayne Buckles of our Public Works Department, who is a boom axe operator. Wayne works diligently to resolve and maintain all line-of-sight issues that may cause restricted views for drivers at intersections on our roadways. Thanks, Wayne, for keeping us all safe.
Does that conclude the presentation?
That's it.
So thank you to each of the directors for recognizing their people. This is the way the city works best, when you know who's behind the scenes and doing such great work to keep our city rolling forward.
I just want to add that we ought to get a director here amongst us. We need to recognize somebody in this, in the dais.
Would be my pleasure to
No. Just a joke, please.
That's all right. We're happy to hide behind the scenes and make sure that it's working very, very well. Okay, thank you for that, Vice Mayor. With that, we'll move to the next section of the agenda, which will be our ordinances. We have one for a second read. Counselor, if you would, read the title for us, please.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Public, this is an ordinance to the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, providing for the amendment of the official zoning map as established in Section 2.06 of the City of Palm Coast Unified Land Development Code. It's amending the official zoning map for 23.3 acres, more or less, of certain real property described as various parcel ID numbers. I'm going to read them now. 3211 31 3620 500060 and 3211 31 3620 500051. All located on the west side of the Old Kings Road, about 1/2 mile north of the intersection between Town Center Boulevard and Old Kings Road, and more particularly described in the attached Exhibit A to the ordinance. The rezoning request is from General Office Zoning District, OFC2, to the General Commercial Zoning District, or COM2. This is providing for conflicts, severability, and providing for an effective date. Mayor, Council, as I know you're aware, this is a quasi-judicial matter. Second reading. So if there have been any ex parte communications, those need to be disclosed. These would be the ex parte communications since the first reading, where any such communications were disclosed then. And for the record, to assist, I've been provided with a copy of 2 emails that were sent to the council on January 5th. I should say one to the council, one to the mayor from the same individual, one at 2:38 and one at 1:56, and these will be made part of the record as ex parte communications.
Councilman, any further disclosure at this time?
I've received several other emails from residents. Certainly won't have any effect on how I decide this issue.
Councilman?
Same
Councilman?
emails, I got plenty of emails also.
Councilman?
Identical emails, but no other communication.
As said, I've received contact from both residents and development staff, and they will not affect my review of the evidence and my decision. Does that take care of your question, Councilor?
Sir, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Staff, you have a brief presentation and update?
Mayor, thank you. Good morning, Mayor, City Council, Ray Tyner, Deputy Chief Development Officer. Yeah, this was heard at first reading on January 4th and approved. There was no changes or additions to the item. We, staff, do not have a presentation. We're here for questions, but Mayor and Council, the applicant, Mr. Livingston, would like to just give a brief presentation.
Please approach.
Good morning. Jay Livingston here, Livingston and Sword. I represent the landowner, OKR Investors LLC. Before we get started, I have a handout with copies for everybody.
Just go ahead and give him the clerk. There you go. Thank you.
Okay. Morning.
Mr. David Butler's going to address what's in that in a second. I just wanted to get that out before we got started. So I know that we've already been through this and we've had a presentation. I know that you've also received some correspondence from concerned residents So we wanted to make sure that the record was clear on certain things, and we wanted to make sure that anything that maybe wasn't thoroughly addressed.
Gentlemen? I can't hear the gentleman. Oh, hold, okay. Mr. Livingston, hold just a second. Doug, can you work on the sound? Can we turn the volume up in any way? All right, Mr. Livingston, can you speak a little louder?
I can hold it closer to my face.
Thank you.
All right. So we just, to start over, we know this has already been heard once, and we also know that you all received some correspondence from concerned residents or maybe phone calls, and just wanted to make sure the record was clear. I also wanted to address some issues that came up in the last hearing regarding some of the data that we presented and its intent. So first and foremost, this first slide you see here is the project location. The cleared area is now the fully developed ALF that's in operation. What's wrong with all right. So this graphic here is actually a little bit different than what I showed you. This slide was in the original presentation, but it was a subsequent slide to the current zoning. I swapped those out to show you the zoning from a little bit of a higher altitude. The purpose of this is to demonstrate that, you know, what we already have within this area, which is all mixed use in the comprehensive plan along the Old Kings Road corridor, is we have the pink areas are OFC2, the red areas, which to the south of the ALF facility, which is also owned by my client, is already COM2. So we already have, and then across the street, immediately across the street at the end of that curve, we also have COM2, immediately to the north, COM3. And as I explained at the first presentation, this in and of itself demonstrates at least a certain level of consistency in the proposed zoning. The COM2 to the south, which would support the project and the special exception that we already obtained from the planning board subject to this approval, was not chosen as a location for this project, as I explained to you before, because we were not able to address the concerns raised by the residents when we attempted to rezone that parcel to duplex zoning because of sound and traffic. The parcel that's at issue in this particular application gave us the opportunity to spread the project out in a way to mitigate sound. It also enabled us to utilize the existing driveway that already is shared with the ALF to pull cars off the road before they enter the storage facility that's proposed. And I just wanted to highlight that for you, just as a reminder, because of some of the concerns that have been raised. So once we get the zoning done, this is what it'll look like if the zoning is approved. So we're potentially making what's already red more red to the north. And again, that COM2 parcel that's outlined in blue enables us to design this project to address all of the concerns that were raised when we attempted to do the DPX rezoning on the southern portion. Now this is what I wanted to clarify, and then I'm going to go into some of the comprehensive plan policies. So I'm going to try to lean, I guess, because I can only talk so loud. At the first presentation, I provided a list of existing storage facilities that were adjacent to or nearby residential. And there was a discussion after the presentations about, you know, what that meant. And I just wanted to make sure it was clear, especially for you, Mr. Councilman Clufus, because you asked the most important questions on that one, that this was really meant to show that a decision has already been made in the city as far as compatibility, that adjacency to residential is not a problem for storage. As you can see, these are 5 storage facilities, 4 of which are in the city of Palm Coast, 1 of which is nearby. Flagler Toy Storage is actually in Palm Coast, in Flagler County. I think its address is in Palm Coast, but I believe it's still unincorporated land use. And you can see that we have 2 storage facilities, extra space at 22 Commerce Boulevard and extra space at 4860 Palm Coast Parkway that are next to property that's zoned residential. They are immediately adjacent to a residential area. So 0 feet. And then CubeSmart on 11 Pine Lakes Parkway, that's the one that's across the street from the residential subdivision on North Pine Lakes. If you take a right off of Belle Terre, that's right across the street from a residential neighborhood. It's 96 feet measured from the property lines. And then the other CubeSmart, which is the one that's behind Walmart, or kind of adjacent to Walmart, that's 329 feet from the nearby residential subdivision. As you can see, we've provided measurements for this proposed facility to the first lots in Hidden Lakes as well as the closest lots in Toscano, and those distances exceed these other four. So that's just that was just provided as an example of compatibility. Before I hand the podium over to Mr. Butler to address some of the other issues, I know there was also a question about the review criteria that the Land Development Code requires the City Council and the Planning Board to go through when they consider a rezoning. And as I'm sure you know, because you get a really extensive agenda backup with all of your agendas, the staff does go through all those criteria and breaks them down in their analysis, and as well, they also do that in their presentation. So as far as the analysis that your staff did and the evidence and the information that we provided to you at the first reading, all of those policies have been addressed, but I did want to walk through them because I think it's important now that you've had the opportunity to not only have a presentation, but also get feedback from residents that may either support or not support the project to see how these review criteria apply. So 2.0603 of your Land Development Code says that the PLDRB board, which has already reviewed this, as well as the City Council, shall consider the following criteria in addition to the findings listed in subsection 2.0505 of the Land Development Code. There's a lot of overlap between those areas, so I'm going to go through the 2.0603 findings. I'm going to read you the other subsection requirements. If you have any questions on how they apply, I'm here to answer your questions. But the first review criteria that you're supposed to consider when considering a rezoning is whether the proposal is consistent with all adopted elements of the comprehensive plan and whether it furthers the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. Policy 1.1.1.1 is the flume designation is the future land use element policy about mixed use designations. This property is in the mixed use area. All the surrounding properties up to the boundary line of the actual developed Hidden Lakes and Toscana area is in mixed use. There's a intervening preserve area that creates a buffer, but on both sides of Old Kings Road, it's in the mixed use corridor. And so that provides for general retail, professional services, office, a blending of residential institutional uses, the mixed use, and including light industrial uses permissible under certain conditions. So it's really an area where you have the most flexibility to have lots of different zoning districts that are that are placed in a way that are compatible. The table in policy 1.1.1.2, which follows that, lists all of your designations in your flume map, and then all of the residential, or all of the zoning districts that are compatible in those areas. Within mixed use, you can have all of the residential zoning districts. You can have all of the institutional zoning districts. Neighborhood commercial 1, that's C1. General commercial 2, C2, and high intensity commercial 3, C3. So those are all permitted within the mixed use. So from a perspective of, is it compatible? The policy states that the future land use designation shall permit the zoning districts listed and generally described in the following table. So the table of your comprehensive plan has already shown that COM2 is compatible and shall be permitted. That's the language from the policy. I think of more importance, because I think the question has come up, is why are we rezoning, or why are we changing something that was on the zoning map? The policy actually addresses that, which comp plans don't often do. It says, these districts may be added, deleted, and amended from time to time as long as they do not exceed the maximum density and intensity allowed within the respective future land use category. That's important because, as we showed in the first presentation, as you'll see again in a later slide, the intensity that's permitted within COM2 is no different than the intensity that's permitted within OFC2. They are the same. It's a 0.4 floor area ratio. But more importantly, because this particular application is already buffered with a special exception that's been approved by the planning board. When this rezoning is approved, assuming it is, that special exception will actually limit the FAR to 0.11. So we're talking about not 40% floor area ratio, but an 11% floor area ratio. So it's a significant reduction, which is consistent with that policy. The next criteria is the proposed rezoning's impact on the environment or natural resources. And this particular project is already within a platted subdivision. So conservation areas, access points, wetland designations, and delineations, these have already occurred. This lot is already ready to go and be developed. There's no additional platting or subdivision that's required. The staff did not identify any significant impacts. The project's being designed to avoid the loss of as many protected trees as possible. We're also leaving certain portions undeveloped in order to create green space and a buffer between this use and the uses across the street. So that, obviously that policy or that criteria is being met. The next criteria is its impact on the affected area, the economy of any affected area. And I'm just going to read some of these because I think they're better as the way I wrote them. The evidence presented shows that the project will increase the supply of storage and reduce the existing demand, which should in turn reduce the overall cost of storage to the city. So that's a positive economic impact. Anything these days that can reduce the cost of anything benefits us, especially since we're facing, I think, 7% inflation over the last year. The project will create jobs, not that many jobs, but it will create jobs. This is not a huge driver of new jobs because it's a storage facility, but there are a job requirement, and this will create those jobs. In addition, the project will have a positive impact on existing and future businesses that have storage needs for both indoor and outside storage. As you know, storage is not just used by residents that have toys, it's also used by businesses that have needs for storing both materials, files. My firm stores files in a storage facility, and that's additional cost to local businesses, and reducing the cost of storage benefits them. And then on top of that, during the staff's analysis, there was no negative economic impact identified. The next criteria is its impact on necessary governmental services such as schools, sewage disposal, potable water, drainage, fire, and police protection, solid waste, or transportation systems. And as you probably remember from the first presentation, this is a very low impact development. The handout I gave you has to do with crime statistics from the Flagler County Sheriff's Office that Mr. Butler will address. So we'll defer that one to his presentation. But other than that particular issue that he'll address more specifically, this project really has zero impact on city facilities compared to almost any other project. Storage facilities are very low impact. Traffic is minimal, as the traffic engineer that testified in the first hearing specified. And there's very little need for water, sewer. Obviously, it doesn't impact schools. And no indication that there's any increase in public safety fire needs related to storage. The next criteria is any changes in circumstances or conditions affecting the area. This is an interesting one. I've always grappled with it when I've applied it to the applications that I've filed with the city. There's two changes in the area that have occurred since the zoning was originally adopted. As you know, Hidden Lakes and Toscana have been there for a very long time, and were being planned when the original zoning map was adopted. The only two changes that I was able to identify is that we have an ALF now. That's within this project, and the Old Kings Road Phase 2 widening project has been delayed. There was an idea that it would be underway at this point. It went back in the day when we were adopting zoning maps and the Land Development Code. That hasn't happened yet. This project actually addresses those. First of all, the ALF operator came to the first meeting and specified that not only does he support the project, but that another facility he has next to a storage facility, an ALF next to a storage facility, it's a perfectly compatible use. It's an ideal neighbor for an ALF. So that changed circumstances doesn't really have any effect on this particular proposal. And then, as I said, we do have commercial land, and commercial development will ultimately come to this particular subdivision, as well as the other lands that are zone COM2 or COM3 along the Old Kings Road corridor. But for the time being, we were looking for a project that didn't create any of the problems that were raised when we brought the DPX zoning application before the planning board, because we didn't want to exacerbate the problems for the neighbors. So this project was designed to mitigate those, and traffic being one of our primary considerations. We pursued a use that, for all intents and purposes, is the least traffic generating commercial use that one can find, short of just not developing the property at all. So the next criteria is compatibility with proximate uses and development patterns, including impacts to the surrounding residents. And this is what that particular slide was designed to show. It's just supporting evidence to the compatibility. But the proposed zoning to COM2 is compatible with adjacent zoning to the south, which is COM2, and OFC2, where the ALF is. The only immediate adjacent resident supports the project. That's the ALF. That's the directly adjacent resident. They've supported the project. The project will contribute significantly less traffic than any other development that would be permitted in OFC2, the current zoning, or the COM2 to the south, which will contribute to the safety and welfare of the residents compared to any other proposed project. The project is regulated by the special exception, so it's mitigated. So we have that additional controls that staff put into their recommendation for approval and the planning board adopted. And on top of that, even though we're not generating the sound, the project has been designed in a way to mitigate the sound from 95 to alleviate those concerns. So we went out of our way to ensure compatibility with proximate uses. And as I said, on top of that, there's a land use pattern that's already been established in the city, including recently approved storage facilities like the one at 22 Commerce Boulevard that show that storage and residential uses are not incompatible. In fact, they are very clearly compatible. And then finally, the G, whether it accomplishes a legitimate public purpose. Well, the rezoning in COM2 will permit the special exception use that allows the project to be planned in a way to minimize impacts to the surrounding property. So as I said, we designed this project specifically with comments we received from the neighbors in mind to mitigate those impacts. I believe that fulfills a public purpose, but more specifically, the proposed use is going to increase supply. That's just not an economic issue. That's also a public policy issue for the city, because as you know, the city has codified certain regulations that prohibit or regulate parking of certain types of vehicles in residential areas. I think you've recently considered changing that, and you chose not to. You maintain that policy. And this project, this proposal will provide additional space for the parking of recreational vehicles, commercial vehicles, boats, trailers, all of those things that will fulfill that city policy that's codified in your code of ordinances. So the review findings in 22.0505 are the proposed development must not be in conflict with or contrary to the public interest. I believe the last criteria addresses that. The proposed development must be consistent with the comprehensive plan and the provisions of this LDC. That was addressed throughout all of the responses to the other criteria. The proposed development must not impose a significant financial liability or hardship for the city. This project will do nothing but generate taxes for the city and provide no financial burden or hardship. The proposed development must not create an unreasonable hazard or nuisance or constitute a threat to the general health, welfare, and safety of the city's inhabitants. We recognize that Old Kings Road is a two-lane road, and that's why the project that minimizes traffic impacts was proposed. We also have the benefit of the shared driveway to pull traffic off of that road. That's the only safety concern I could potentially think of. And then there's also planning measures that will be implemented at a later stage that will ensure that traffic properly circulates in and out of that facility. And the proposed development must comply with all other applicable local, state, and federal laws, statutes, ordinance, regulations, or codes. That's really handled during the development review process, but we will obviously get all the necessary permits from the state for stormwater, as well as any local required permits for development of the project. So that summary demonstrates that we've met the criteria on top of what was already in the staff report. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my client, Mr. Butler. He's going to do a really quick presentation, and then we'll be done, and we're also here to answer any questions you may have.
David Butler for the applicant. Thank you, City Councilman, for your time this morning. In the last 2 weeks since the first read, there have been a number of communications to the City Council from concerned citizens, and they have brought up 2 major items, one of which is crime. And a lot of the statements that have been made have been rather broad sweeping, and so we decided to determine what the actual statistics are in regards to crime. To do that, we went to the Flagler County Sheriff's Office and we obtained the call for assistant records for all of 2021 for every single storage unit in the city of Palm Coast. And we also compared that with the published statistics for 2021 on neighborhoodscout.com, which correlate very closely with the city, with what the county sheriff's report. So just to give you a very brief overview, in the city of Palm Coast, we have roughly 34,700 single-family or residences, both single and multifamily. We had 600 and I believe the number is 53 crimes, and we had a 1.9% crime rate on residential housing. For self-storage, we had, if you look in the lower right corner above the word rate, it's in yellow, we had roughly 4,480 self-storage units, residences if you will, and we had a total of 14 crimes in 2021. You have the handouts, the crimes per se are highlighted in yellow. The crime rate in self-storage is 0.32%. The crime rate in single family or in all residential is 1.9%. A residential property has a 6.2 times greater chance of experiencing crime than does a self-storage unit. So the canard that self-storage is a hotbed of crime, or it's axiomatic that there is crime in self-storage that is greater than in residential, is not true based upon the statistics from the Flagler County Sheriff's Office records. Now, what that means is that self-storage versus residential actually reduces crime by 84% over the project itself. Again, statistics in your package. Looking at the, before I jump into this, I want to bring a second point to bear. No, go back to that, please, Jay, thank you. Another buzzword that has been used by those in opposition, and I want to say this, we recognize and respect the rights of those who oppose the project. We encourage them to speak their mind. We just want to make sure that we present competent, substantial evidence for our position and that you weigh that as competent, substantial evidence. But what is flying around these days is a word called urban sprawl. This is an urban sprawl project. Well, urban sprawl actually does have a definition. And under Florida Statute 163.3164, urban sprawl is a pattern of development characterized by low density, auto-dependent, not functionally related, extension of public facilities in an inefficient manner, and failure to provide a clear separation between urban and rural uses. There are no extension of public facilities in regards to this project. This is an urban corridor. Sewer, water, stormwater, irrigation water are already in the streets. There is a very clear separation between urban and rural uses. In fact, there are no rural uses within a mile of this project. This is decidedly an urban corridor, and the residential units are within this urban corridor. And the context of non-functionally related is also something that has to be discussed. Because of the city's ordinances 44-33 through 35, The city mandates that there be no on-property storage of boats, recreational vehicles, or work trucks. Every time the city approves new residential, they are creating a need for new storage. Not only are they creating a need for new self-storage of personal items, but they're also creating a need for new off-street storage for boats, RVs, and work trucks. Just to the south of us, there is approximately 2,500 units that are going to be, or have already been approved, known as the JXDRI. There are multiple new projects being approved within this 3-mile radius, and we believe that this will, in fact, meet the need. It does serve the public purpose, as Jay said. Going back to this slide that's on the screen before you today, again, just once again, and with a new addition or two at the bottom from the last presentation, we are reducing floor area by 75% over what is currently approved. We are reducing max building height by 70% over what is currently approved under OFC 2. We are reducing peak car trips by 91% over what is approved, currently allowed under OFC 2. We are reducing left turns, which is the most problematic of turns, by 87%. We are reducing noise energy by 68% over what it would be if it were OFC 2 and it were clear cut and there were parking lots and the noise were transiting from I-95 through to Hidden Lakes. And again, as Jay has said, the I-95 noise is not something that this development is responsible for. But why are we here? We are here because when we first proposed to develop duplexes in April of 2021, the neighbors came out and were very pointed in their reasons for not approving the project. We took those reasons under consideration and completely shifted the way that we designed this project. By good fortune, we found a developer who is unique in designing self-storage that they pridefully say does not look like self-storage. But they also worked hard to develop, as you can see here, what is called a fortress-type development where all the perimeter walls are solid and all of the storage activity faces inward and is not visible. They further, by the way, Insight Development, who owns 64 of these, tell us that fortress projects experience 1/2 the crime rate of their exterior fenced projects. So we responded to the citizens, the neighbors. We tried to meet their concerns for traffic, I-95 noise and compatibility, and we have done what we think is responsible development. In fact, Commissioner Albano at the PLDRB said that this is the way that the development process is supposed to work when we take resident neighborhood input and we try to accommodate their needs. Finally, Mayor Alphen spoke at the last meeting about the city's affirmation of the rights, upholding the rights of property owners. I would say to everyone that this property, since it has been owned, has paid the city over $768,000 of real estate taxes and received virtually no benefit. And we are at this time respectfully coming forward and asking that you approve this this development, which will greatly reduce the impact and further add about $360,000 of annual revenue to the city in the form of sales and real estate property taxes. We're finished at this point. We'll turn it over to the neighbors, but if you have any questions, we're here to answer.
Thank you for your presentation, so just hold for a minute. City Council, any questions on the updated presentation today? Councilman?
I'm good. Not at this moment. Stand by just in case if I have any questions, because I would like to hear the concerns of the citizens.
Sure.
And then if there's any other questions that I have to ask you or anything to add, then I will do it
Understood.
at the proper time. Thank you.
So, I'm sorry, hold on one second. I just have some comments. Mr. Tyner, the PLDRB voted unanimously to approve this project at their meeting
for the special exception was, yes, sir. I believe they did unanimously, right, Bill? Yes,
Correct,
6-0.
okay. And you've commented on the residential value. The slide that you show indicates that residential value has not been negatively affected in the communities that are also in close proximity to the same category of project?
We have not seen any competent, substantial evidence that residential value is impacted by self-storage proximate to residential.
Okay, you've addressed crime, I saw that. Trafficking and parking, PLD, and economic demand. That's the gap they refer to. So again, your projection is that with the continued growth of the area, certainly the self-storage is not just catering to residential homeowners. With the introduction of the fiber optic, we should be enjoying more at-home businesses, which could potentially be creating offices at home, so additional storage space may be required for all those folks as well.
That's affirmative. We have a letter which was submitted at the last meeting from Insight Development. Again, owners of 64 of these across the country. Their demand study shows a 3-mile radius need of 261,000 square foot after this building is built and after the pipeline projects that have been approved are also built. So there is a net additional need, including pipeline, of 261,000 feet over and above what's currently in the 3-mile radius, and that is the radius in which they determine demand.
Okay, thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
At this time, I would open up the agenda for public comment regarding this issue. Is there any member of the public that would like to come forward? And we have 3 minutes available for you, please. And please identify yourself at the podium if you would.
Good morning. It's still morning, right? Good afternoon, Mayor and Councilman. Very happy to be here. I think there's
I'm sorry, if you would just introduce yourself.
I'm sorry, Patty Quick. I should have known better. There's a human element that I think we're missing, one of them, and that's at AFL next door. People don't know what AFL means. It's assisted living. Those are residents, and up to 100 residents in that building. I have someone that lives there, so I know very much about that residence and how the residents walk out and take their time. It's the only place they can go. There's nothing close to them. This is all they have is that little square building to live in. And they would go out and one resident gathered some branches and made a wreath and put it on his door. I mean, it's just breaking my heart. They now have no place to go. We throw our elderly away, and we throw our people away that have issues, mental issues or physical issues, and discard them. And this is another example of doing that. And has anybody ever driven down Old Kings Road and how curvy it is? Can you imagine some of these vehicles going down there and accidents about to happen? And believe me, it does affect the residents. They weren't zoned for across the street for commercial property. They were zoned for office. And even that would have been a much better improvement for them not to feel any safety issues. And perception is a big deal to people, and these residents are going to feel fearful of, and they're sharing the driveway. I mean, how much closer can it be to them? It's just wrong. I gotta look at that time thing. And as far as the breakouts and the safety too, which was covered here in Flagler County, we're no longer a bedroom community. It's getting larger and larger. The more people come here, the more crime there's going to be, and that's a huge issue that should be looked at too, especially with these elderly residents that live in these that assisted living. And there's plenty of property down on 100 that's commercial already. Why do you have to pick some place and give examples on other places that are residents? Do you think these residents would really wanted that? Probably not. And I can't remember the exact term he said. There wasn't any viable evidence or comments. Well, what's viable? It's just, as long as there's other places available, they should be used. You've been changing codes for a long time, and it's created Palm Coast Parkway, which I use constantly, is like a parking lot most of the time because of the traffic. Leave the codes they were. ITT planned this community very well. Let's get with that and not keep changing codes all the time and bringing so much traffic to this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Is there another speaker at this time?
Morning. My name is Bob Scove. I live in Hidden Lakes. I remain opposed to any zone change, especially if it requires an exception. My reasons are both noise and safety. There's been a lot of discussion about noise coming from I-95, but nobody said much about the noise coming from the facility with all these trucks and boats and motorhomes and whatnot, especially the ones that are diesel. I understand diesel makes some noise. Safety. Danger driving on Old Kings Road will be a reality. Just imagine a car going south on Old Kings Road. As they approach the entrance to Toscana, there's a big bend in the road. It's a blind bend. You can't see. Imagine somebody driving down that road, and the speed limit there is 45. Nobody goes 45. They're mostly doing 50. So somebody's driving down that road, distracted by a texting or a kid in the car or something. They go around the corner. It's only a 1/10 of a mile from where they can see to the entrance to that facility. Now, let's say a big truck or something is towing a boat, coming in or out of there, or a motorhome, taking up most of the roadway. Bam, you got an accident, probably with an injury, maybe a death. I don't know. I pray that you, our elected officials, are able to foresee what everyone else sees and vote against this boondoggle. If not, the voters all over Palm Coast will have their say during the next election. And I do hope you realize the ramifications you all will face when such a wreck occurs. It could open both civil suits and criminal suits, or criminal charges. On the civil side, you should hold on to your hats, your wallets, and your political futures. On the criminal side, you could be under Florida law facing criminal charges for negligence. Though I'm not an attorney and don't play one on television, I do have a little bit of experience. I was a police officer and a criminal investigator in local, state, and national levels for over 40 years. So I've seen a lot. And like you, I have a computer. I looked up 2 questions that are commonly asked about this stuff. What is criminal negligence in Florida? And the definition of criminal negligence states that it is recklessly acting without reasonable caution and putting another person at risk of injury or death, or failing to do something about it, causing the same, with the same outcome. You may also hear this referred to as culpable negligence or involuntary manslaughter.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up, please. Your 3 minutes have expired.
Okay, well, I've got a little bit more to say.
10 more seconds.
The second question I found, can you be criminally liable for negligence? Criminal intelligence negligence requires somebody to fail to know of substantial and unjustifiable risk. Somebody say something? Okay.
Please wrap it up.
Yeah, all right, like 1 minute.
No, just a few seconds, please. I have to keep the same amount of time for all the participants today. So you've used your 3 minutes. It's expired. So please, just a closing statement, if you would.
Okay. So my closing comments is when this happens, not if, but when this happens, There are many voters who will take action against anyone who voted for this boondoggle, and I can see the headlines now. Mayor Custer and the 7th Cavalry defeated again.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
May I have the picture of...
Please come up and introduce yourself first. I'm sorry.
My name is John Burke, and I live in Hidden Lakes. I'd like the pictures of the existing site as it is now and as it will be, if you don't mind. Could you add those up for me, please? No, the one with the beautiful green picture of the trees. There you go. And then the one of what's going to happen there now, of the complex as it will be.
Okay, I think
Well,
we've seen those. We get it.
Beautiful green trees, and
Yeah,
then
okay.
what you got there. Okay, thank you. As I said, my name is John Burt. I live in Hidden Lakes. The developer has tried to give. Oh, by the way, good morning, Mayor. Sorry, got off the wrong start. And good morning, Council. I'd like to see some smiles because you all have some beautiful faces. Okay. The developer has tried to convince the council, you the council, that the public, that they have designed this project to address the concerns of the local residents. I don't think that's true. I think they're designing the project for their own profits and to use every available square inch of this parcel for the purpose of maximum profits. Angled roofs are for drainage with little or no effect on noise mitigation. So the noise mitigation slide, I don't quite agree with that. A shared driveway allows them for more area of space. So they're kind of utilizing the shared driveway to maximize the space. Secure space needs to find an existing industrial or high-intensity commercial 3 proper parcel away from high-end residential communities such as Hidden Lakes. And dangerous traffic conditions for this project. It needs not to be here. And they did show a slide of the existing facilities in the area, and that should be sufficient. The majority of us in Hidden Lakes have 2 or 3 car garages, so we have place for our spaces. I happen to have a floor to attic, as they call it. I've installed things where I can put my stuff inside the garage. Most of the people in Hidden Lakes, a lot of them have that, so we really don't have the need for this particular additional storage. As you know, this type of land invites crimes. As you know, this type of land use invites crimes and will lower the property value. Now, I was a COP, and I was asked by the owners of these sites to actually patrol to help prevent crime. So I disagree with the fact that there may not be crime.
Please offer us your
All
closing statement.
All right. I think that's all I have to say, but I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment.
You're welcome.
Next speaker, please.
Hello, Maureen Tavernese. I'm a resident of Palm Coast. I'll speak quickly. First of all, the people who made the presentation had unlimited time to speak. We're not being given the same courtesy. This is a planned community. The Land Development Code and other things in place were set up to preserve the integrity and beauty of Palm Coast. Residents chose their homes, myself included, at this location because these insurances were put in place. We investigated the zoning code when we chose Palm Coast. Planned community was indeed used by real estate agents when we were choosing our new location to relocate. I relocated from up north. I work here at home. It was mentioned that with all the people that are working at home, they will need more storage. They will not need that much more storage. Things are stored digitally. I speak for myself, my husband, my neighbors that I know of who do not need more storage because we work from home. That's to address that point. We accepted the planning that was established for Old Kings Road. when we chose this. We investigated, we accepted what was there. We assert that the owners of the properties around that area should require, that the owner of this property abide by the code that was in place when he purchased that property. They knew or should have known what type of construction was zoned for. To change the code for one developer is diametrically opposed to the wishes of residents who entrusted the city's development to the board. I came in under certain, guideline situation, and now you're changing it, or you propose to change it. And every time you do that, it just gives the next developer standing to have his changed, as this developer pointed out. As far as crime, when he talked about crime, yes, maybe crime within the storage facility is low compared to residential crime. What he did not investigate possibly is the uptick in the crime rate in communities where these things were added. What was the crime rate before? What is it after the storage facility would end? I don't expect the storage facility to have the crime. It's the neighbors that may have the uptick. It's a slippery slope, rezoning. Like I said, you're opening us up to more and more rezoning and just losing the integrity and beauty of the community that I came down here when to live in. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Good evening, good morning to all. My name is John Ives. I live in Hidden Lakes. I just, as the previous speaker said, I too investigated the zoning before I purchased my home in Hidden Lakes. And this was office zoned and everything. And I understand the change in times and everything has happened. I've only been here 7 years and there's been a lot of changes in Palm Coast. But also I can go along with maybe a zone change to the commercial too. The part that really bothers me is the special exception. How many more special exceptions are we gonna have? A mile and a half south of where that location is, there's a sign out there for another development, for boat storage and stuff. So what are we gonna do? There's been an application on hold, string bean, whatever thing up the other end of Old Kings Highway. Are we gonna approve another storage facility somewhere there? Then we might as well change the name of the road to Storage Road. I'm somewhat amazed and I'm dismayed that just arbitrarily, it seems like the developers get anything they want. And the residents are stuck with, well, that's the way it goes. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other speakers that would like to address City Council at this time? Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your patience, by the way.
My name is Linda Charbonneau. I live in Hidden Lakes also. I want to complain about the storage unit being, I should say, to the storage unit that's being built. It's going to cause more trucks on Old Kings Road. It's going to cause more traffic, and these trucks are tearing up the road too, to where we go in and out of our development, and it's going to lower, they say it won't, but it will definitely lower our property values because this is going to be a commercial area and it should not be that at all. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any additional speakers? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Donna Sire and I do reside in Hidden Lakes. All of the speakers that spoke before me about the rejection of the storage unit, I agree 100% with them. I live on Arrowhead Drive. Our backyard butts up to Old Kings Road. Right now, at night and during the day, I can hear all kind of vehicles that are very loud, such as your sport vehicles, Mustangs and so forth, and the trucks. During the night, I can also hear vehicles. With this storage unit being built, it's going to be much more noisy for all of us at Hidden Lakes, especially for the people that live on Arrowhead Drive the way I do, and my backyard butts right up into Old Kings Road. I object the building for the storage unit being built for many reasons, and all of the reasons that the speakers before me brought up. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Additional speakers at this time? Yes, sir.
Paul Weber, 8 Marina Lake Drive, Hidden Lakes. I object to the proposal. If a storage facility is to be put there, it's got to be scaled down. There are provisions for RVs and boat trailers on Colbert Ave and on Route 100. A ploy often used by someone seeking a zoning change is to present something so extravagant that when concessions are made, everyone is relieved, and it avoids sometimes years of legal challenges. I've seen this with hotels, with restaurants, and with storage facilities put in residential areas. The need for storage, if it is attractive, if it is hidden from view, if it makes provisions for Old Kings Road changing to a 4-lane highway and still keeping from view anything that does not look attractive. I've seen storage facilities that were allowed into beautiful mansion areas, but they ended up with attractive gates, offices that imitated the beautiful mansions nearby, and the facilities kept from view. So I'm hoping that if this is allowed through, that all of these concerns of mine, the widening of the road, the keeping the facilities smaller, not allowing for RVs and for boat trailers, just storage. And I think people in Tuscana, the Gables, Hidden Lakes, would be very glad to use that facility for such a storage. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any additional speakers like to comment on this issue at this time? Yes, sir.
My name is Sam Hobbs, and I live in the Hidden Lake subdivision. Some of the comments that have been made by the developer refer to noise and traffic. Those comments, however, do not address uncertainty in their evaluation. They address the averages and not the uncertainties and not the peaks. They've also made a large deal out of wanting to have a competent evaluation done. And I suspect that, in fact, they have attempted to do a competent evaluation, but they have done so without having objections raised by somebody who is a professional, independent evaluator. And so I think that would be of strong merit to do that. Two other things. One is that the assisted living facility director spoke in favor of what a wonderful situation this would be. But as one other person has commented today, the assisted living residents seem not to have been consulted. It is also my understanding, and I would certainly stand subject to correction, that the assisted living facility is actually owned by the developer, the proposed developer of the storage facility. So that comment may not have been really an independent comment, and I would think that full disclosure should be required in such a situation. The other thing is that the reductions, which are quite optimistic, that the developer and the developer's representative suggested, are for the maximum allowed situation, not for an ideal situation, not for a typical situation. And simply because something reduces below the maximum allowed does not mean that it should be permitted without serious consideration. Lastly, at the previous hearing, a petition was submitted, and the developer commented that that petition went to outside areas rather than simply this area. There was no opportunity for the person who did that petition to comment in response, which is one of the limitations of a 3-minute rule, and I certainly understand that 3-minute rule, but I also understand that there does need to be opportunity for appropriate response. And so that concludes what I have to say. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
And thank you for your comment. Is there another speaker that would like to address City Council at this time on this issue?
Good morning, good morning. Jane Gentile-Hughes. I am speaking as an expert, as a licensed real estate broker in Florida for 41 years, and as an active participant in a landmark zoning case. It was identical to this case. It was in the Circuit Court, Appellate Court, 1998, case 98761. I would suggest the county attorney read this case, because this is exactly what this is going on to be. In this particular case, it was for a storage facility where I used to live, across the street, identical to Hidden Lakes, only this was smaller. It was only 3 acres. It wasn't 23 acres. The Planning and Zoning Board recommended this to the county, said it worked well with the master plan. I can turn this in, or you can look it up yourself. Said it was totally in tune with the comprehensive master plan, and they opined that the proposed use would create substantially less traffic than other permitted uses. However, this was already zoned commercial. Here, let me stop from this case one moment and remind you that your applicant and your own staff has insulted your own staff. Your staff zoned the property office. Now your staff agrees with the applicant that commercial would be better than office. Well, then why didn't your staff recommend to you a zoning change prior to this application? This is disgraceful. I will be happy to prepare an appeal pro se for the group. The applicant brought up everything that has nothing to do with the special exception at hand. The economic benefit has nothing to do with this. The storage needs of the city have nothing to do with this. The costs have nothing to do with this. The other zoning down the street has nothing to do with this. What has to do with this specifically is what the 3rd DCA ruled in this case, Metropolitan-Dade County versus Section 11 Property Court, also supported by other cases, Blumenthal and Metropolitan versus Sport Acres, Metropolitan County versus Blumenthal. The only thing that counts here is that the land being requested for special exception is compatible with the surrounding residential area. There is nothing compatible with storage facilities for Hidden Lakes and Toscana. The appellate court totally agreed with the community that it would lower property values, it would bring in extra traffic, and it's almost like trying to put an elephant in a Volkswagen. You know the elephant is there. I will be more than happy, as an expert who participated with the county attorney and writing the certiorari on this case, pro se, and as an expert realtor for 41 years. This is not what you do. You don't insult.
Make your closing statement.
My closing statement is, your own staff insulted themselves by agreeing that their own office zoning was no good and that commercial zoning was better. You will lose this case in court.
Thank you for your comment. No, please. Are there any additional speakers that would like to make comment at this time?
Good morning. My name is Mary Alice Brandt, and I live in Hidden Lakes. First of all, I don't even have this written down on a piece of paper, but I just want to tell you, after I've listened to all the wonderful, mellifluent words of the lawyer and the developer, I cannot afford to pay for a lawyer to refute that, but I'm sure if I did, he could refute every single thing that they have proposed here today. Not that I'm going to hire a lawyer, although eventually we may. I'm not saying that we would, but we are very concerned about what's going on. We do not think you should change the zone. Leave it the way it is, and let's see what happens with that. This does not belong where they're trying to put it, across the street from beautiful development. Then I'm going to read what I have written, and this is what I've thought about long and hard. Mr. Kloufis, when you ran for District 3 City
Please,
Council...
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, please address me.
Okay, well, when Mr. Kloufis ran for District 3 City Council seat, you ran on the platform of creating tech jobs. Where are those jobs? This parcel zone, Office 2, is the perfect place to bring the much-needed tech jobs and create jobs and solve problems. But you seem to want to disregard the voices and concerns of the citizens of this and local residents, which there are many. You ignore the obvious dangerous traffic concerns and neglect your duty to uphold the protections outlined in the Land and Development Code. Another of your commitments was to reduce traffic and improve safety in Palm Coast thoroughfares. A no vote in this application would prove that you mean what you say. The third-party priority that you pledged was to support Mednex in every possible way. This parcel would be great for numerous types of medical use. According to the United Land Development Code, this City of Palm Coast, the proposed of Office 2 district is to provide areas for various types of office use, such as parks, offices, corporations, and other businesses and employment centers. This district also permits limited service and retail uses, and I'm saying limited services and retail uses to meet the needs of office workers. Please remember your pledge to the citizens of Palm Coast. Uphold your duty to protect Land and Development Code. Mr. Barbosa recognized that this application is strongly opposed by the majority of the local residents, and that would be detrimental to the safety and welfare of local communities, and has used his best judgment. He voted no on January 4th. I urge you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Branchino, Mr. Danko, to follow his dedication to the will of the people and the mandates of the Land and Development Code and vote no and deny applications 4901 and 4902.
Thank you for your
much.
comment. Hold that, please. Are there any additional members that would like to make comment on the subject at this time? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Cindy McDowell, Hidden Lakes.
What's your name again, I'm sorry?
Cindy McDowell, Hidden Lakes. Most of my comments are referring to the first hearing. I want to thank Mr. Barbosa for voting no to the zoning change. I'm very concerned, as my 25 years of experience in describing suburban areas, micro versus macro on the Uniform Residential Appraisal Report by FEMA for lenders, storage facilities do affect values up to 10%, as the District Court of Appeal case found, as quoted previously before me. Your PLD department did not have the facts that the homeowners have presented to you since then. Mr. Livingston and the OK developer, Mr. Butler, knew the zoning when he purchased the parcels in question from Town Center East in December 2018. It was put in place in accordance with the Land and Development Code for a reason. Purchasing a $2.49 million property would of course cause him to pay high taxes. He knew that when he bought it. He is getting his return by already putting in the assisted living. He also stated, Mr. Livingston did, Old Kings Road has always been zoned highest density commercial. We should be lucky the developer is not asking for a high-rise office building. That's incorrect. According to the city's zoning map, the 2035 comprehensive plan, high-density commercial projects shall only be concentrated at intersections of Palm Coast Parkway and Old Kings Road, 100 and Old Kings Road. According to the 2035 comprehensive plan, you are to vote against any development that discourages the proliferation of urban sprawl, identify the need, public services, and revenues based on population and employment growth. Your predecessors zoned this portion of Old Kings Road Office 2 to provide what is needed to meet community-wide demand for retail services, business, and employment opportunities as stated. This is not one of them. His crime rate is not accurate, as that's not including the 6 proposed storage facilities, including one that is a half a mile down the road from this proposal, providing the same kind of storage for RVs, campers, and boats. The 2035 Comprehensive Plan 1.4.2.1, cities shall provide appropriate balance of commercial, retail, and office to balance jobs and housing. How is this zoning change in line with your comprehensive plan? Why is it the city's problem to sell buyers downsizing to Florida? How is 6 approved storage facilities not meeting the current appropriate balance? Old Kings Road has already flooded this past season. In closing, Mr. Clough has stated he would agree to seek jobs environmental friendly. This is 4 jobs that's not environmental friendly. I suggest that you reread the city's land development code. It must not conflict with the public interest. We have over 1,000 petition signatures that legitimately
Okay, please wrap up.
oppose. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any additional members of the public? Yes.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. My name is Darlene Shelley and I live in Hidden Lakes. Mr. Livingston tried to convince you that this is not a residential area. 2 communities with nearly 600 homes and it is the definition of residential. This is precisely why these land parcels were zoned OFC2 and not COM3, because they are located directly across from residential communities. Heavy commercial and industrial uses do not belong across from high-end and luxury residential communities. The application for rezoning letter sent to Mr. Tyner on October 1st, 2021 completely omits the key element of the Land and Development Code 2505 that would have compelled the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board to deny this application in the initial December 15th hearing. This is also the language the city attorney informed you that you could use in reference to support a denial of this application. In the Land and Development Code 2505, letter D states, the proposed development must not create an unreasonable hazard or nuisance or constitute a threat to the general health, welfare, or safety of the city's inhabitants. The application submitted by Mr. Livingston suspiciously does not contain this verbiage at all, and erroneously lists D as stating the proposed development must comply with all other applicable local, state, and federal laws, statutes, ordinances, regulations, or codes. This language is actually E in 2505. Mayor and council members, I implore you to deny this application based on the lack of factual information in the developer's application, and to uphold the Land and Development Code 2505A that states, the proposed development must not be in conflict with or contrary to the public interest. Over 1,000 local residents have made it very clear that yet another urban sprawl storage facility is contrary to the public interest. We ask you now to uphold the elusive 2505D and protect our general health, welfare, and safety from the unsafe conditions that a storage facility would create at this location. We urge you to follow the advice of your own city attorney and deny this application for its failure to uphold the protections that are provided in the Land and Development Code and Comprehensive Plan, and realize that insufficient factual data and even inaccurate data was presented to you by Mr. Livingston and Mr. Butler. I have an addendum to the petition presented to you on January 4th with an additional 224 signatures from concerned Hidden Lakes and Toscana local residents, bringing the total signature count to 1,049. I also have a copy of Mr. Livingston's factually inaccurate application for a zoning application. I'd like to present them both to you for the record, along with a copy of the Land Development Code 2505-2603 and the Comprehensive Plan and Vision Statement. And thank you for your strong consideration of this compelling evidence and your vote to deny this application.
And if you'd like to deliver those to the clerk, that would be fine. Thank you for your comment.
And I'm also going to give you 10 articles on crime.
Just deliver the information to the clerk, please. Are there any other members of, there you go. Are there any additional members of the public that would like to comment at this time? Seeing none, I will close public participation at this time, and we will come back to City Council. City Council, let's open for comment. First, I would ask the City Attorney, would you like to make comment at this time on any points?
Well, where to begin? We've had a lot of conversation this morning, a lot of good points, a lot of good comments. I guess the first thing is clarification. One of the speakers, I believe, indicated that it couldn't have been me because I wasn't here last time. I haven't said anything on this today, but that the City Attorney has said something that this should be denied, and of course that can't be the case. That's not our job. Our job is not to tell you what to do or to tell this community what to do. What our job is to make sure that there is substantial competent evidence in the record to support whatever it is that you decide. So how do we determine, and this is what I'm sure was said at the last public meeting by the City Attorney, my partner. So how do we decide what is substantial, competent evidence? And I'm not pulling, those words are from cases. Those are from the appellate courts in the Florida Supreme Court. And it basically tells bodies like our council that our decisions, your decisions, and this was something that was said earlier today as well, our decisions can't be arbitrary. You might remember there was an accusation that your decisions are arbitrary. They can't legally be arbitrary. Our decisions have to be based upon our comprehensive plan and our land development code. And I would remind everyone that at the very, very beginning of this discussion, I said this is a quasi-judicial matter, and that's really important. This is not a legislative matter. This is not about elections and getting voted in or getting voted out. You are not here as elected officials on this case as much as you are as judges. And judges have to follow the law. So what's the law in this case? The law in this case is your comprehensive plan, and you've heard a lot of testimony and a lot of arguments about how our comprehensive plan applies to this application and to the record. What else determines what is substantial competent evidence? That's your land development code. This is in your agenda packet in your staff report beginning at page 59. And there's two sections that we've talked about at length today, 2.0505 and 2.0603. And they list a series of factors that we are to follow so that the decision is not arbitrary, so that this is not just who has more people in the audience for or against. The courts have specifically said that that type of factor is not relevant. It's not legally relevant. It's not to be considered by a body acting in a quasi-judicial capacity. It is your job, and it's a difficult job in cases like this, to listen to all of the facts to determine how they fit into these legal factors in your land development code, and which ones carry the weight, which ones carry the day in these specific factors. And I would ask you to, I would remind you that any decision you make today must be supported by the record. And if you are going to deny the application for rezoning, you must state on the record today what grounds you find in the record that fail to comply with the law.
I just would like
Thank
to,
you, Mr. Reichman.
Mr. Reichman, one quick question to see if you know by heart. Okay, I wouldn't expect you to know all of this case law. Ms. Jane Yode, I believe, mentioned case 98-761 from the appellate division, I believe in the appellate division of Florida. Do you have any comments on that, or do you?
I do not have the luxury of having that case in front of me. From what she stated, it sounds like it goes primarily to the issue of compatibility.
No.
And,
Ms. Yode, not at this time. Not at this time. You can deliver it to the clerk, please.
regardless of that case, the most important thing is what I've already stated. And some of the issues that I'm sure were argued in that case are in your land development code. And that is, based upon the substantial competent evidence you hear today, do you believe that one of the factors which goes to compatibility of this property, this proposed development, to all of the surrounding properties, is that compatible? And that is one of the hard decisions that you have before you today. So the other thing I wanted to make sure that because there were some accusations that about, and I apologize, Mr. Mayor, but depending upon what you decide today, that there could be some exposure for the city and for you individually with regard to civil or criminal liability. There is no statutory or case law existing, period, to support that allegation. So I want that on the record as well.
That was my next question, but thank you for answering.
Thank you, Counselor. Let's, I want to make sure that each city council member has a chance to comment before we move forward. So, Councilman Danko, do you want to make a comment at this time?
I just have a question. Under the existing zoning, what can be built there presently? And I'd ask staff.
A variety of uses. Mr. Livingston, do you have that list? I can go on my code and,
Or Mr.
do you have it handy? All the uses in OFT. I can look it up real quick.
I'll let Mr. Tyner confirm, but it's my understanding that the office uses are all also permitted in the COM2 zoning district. That for all intents and purposes, with the exception of certain special exception uses that are allowed in COM2, they're almost mirror image zoning districts, except Office 2 allows a residence for a caretaker, and that particular use is not listed in the COM2 uses. But I'll let Mr. Tyner confirm that.
That's correct, but there are a variety of different uses that are in office. You got pharmacies, you got scientific and technical architectural engineering, you have veterinarians, you've got, going down the list here, you have even hotels that are allowed in the.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. You said
hotels, sir.
Hotels, okay.
Yes, hotels. Going down the list, public parks, assisted living facilities, of course, art dealers, florists, different types of retail, food and beverages, supermarkets, especially food stores. Going down, model home centers, photo finishing, sporting goods, hobby, book, music stores, different business services, personal services such as, adult daycare centers, bail bonding,
Bail bonding?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You've got automobile driving schools, technical trade schools. Going through the list more. Passenger transit. So you basically have a lot of commercial uses that are allowed in the office as well.
A supermarket, a hotel, bail bondsman, convenience store?
Don't think so, not a convenience store.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Barbosa, comment at this time? Question, comment?
Yes, to the comment that they made, when you said that the distance of nearby residences, you didn't take into account that the people in the nursing home are residents.
Well, as we showed in the map, there's the other facilities that have been approved, as well as the most recent one on Commerce Park is 0 feet from a residentially zoned district. So we consider that to be equivalent.
And when they purchased the property, they were aware what this was zoned, right?
Well, my client, Mr. Butler, who presented here, was the original principal owner of Town Center East LLC, which purchased the property in 2005. There was an ownership restructuring and a sale of an equity interest in the property to OKR investors. Mr. Butler still is a part of that group. Roy Hubbard is the principal. So Mr. Butler has owned the property in one form or another since 2005. So he was aware of the zoning when he purchased it.
Did the zoning change at that time?
The zoning was assigned to his property at the time that he owned it. When the city adopted its land development code. Actually, the city adopted a zoning map in 2005, and then it readopted the zoning map with some changes, no changes to this area, in 2008 when it conformed it to the Unified Land Development Code, which is when the city adopted the Unified Land Development Code.
Question? Councilman Clufus?
The special exception for this rezoning, that is in place, and I'm assuming this for clarification, to limit the use of this to be something that is extremely low use as compared to what is existing in the OFC office space. Is that
Yeah,
true?
let me, I'm glad you asked that question, because a few people had spoken about that, I think the term special exception, that it's something special, it's not. A lot of municipalities call them conditional use, and basically what it is, it's a use within our land development code that we call limited, that it goes through an initial process. It's allowed by right, but it has to go through the process through our planning board to go through a special exception where they can add on conditions in which they did here to make it, more compatible if there's some concerns.
Let me chime in. What we're here on today is an application to rezone the property. What we're not here on today is the request for a special exception. It's my understanding, and make sure the record is clear, so this is to whomever can answer, but that the applicant's, the property owner's request for a special exception under our land development code goes to and did go to the PLDRB. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes,
and
sir.
the PLDRB took action, has taken action on that request.
They have approved it with conditions.
Is that development order conditional upon a successful rezoning of the property?
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to, it's a chicken and the egg. We're not here to determine whether or not this property is entitled to a special exception. PLDRB has already done that, but it's dependent upon what you do today, zoning it from what they are currently zoned to what they request to be zoned.
Thank you, Councilor.
Right. And I only brought that up because it was my opinion that the special exception, quote unquote, actually makes it more, how should I say this? It fits better compared to some of the uses that a C2 would allow. So it actually makes it like more conducive to be allowable in this type of environment than some of the higher intensity C2 uses. Besides that, I mean, Our attorney has said it great that we have to make a decision today based upon our land use code, and we have very clearly outlined every component of this, and that is exemplified by the fact that the PLDRB passes unanimously 6-0, and we have limited options as far as disagreeing
Please.
with what we're trying to accomplish here. I haven't heard anything today that goes against a single point of the land use code, and that's how I'm basing my decision tonight.
Councilman, thank you. 1 second. Please, I'm going to ask the audience, okay, the audience has their time for participation. This is City Council's time to speak. Vice Mayor Branquinho, your comments and questions, please.
I have a few comments. Let me start by saying that the email that we all got, I believe was from a person that used to own 4 storage places, now owns only 1. And that email started by saying exactly how many storage units are needed in Palm Coast. We have enough storage places in Palm Coast. Storage units are there to make profits. The storage facilities are extremely problematic regarding crime. Mind, this is what the person is telling us. $20,000 to $30,000 in property value. Traffic, safety. I don't know. Looking at this, if I'm a resident of Hidden Lakes or Toscana, and I have to weigh, let's put it in a scale, in between a storage place and 23 acres of stores, including storefront, that's at least 46 stores there. Talking about traffic. At least 46 stores that you're going to have in the same area. Talking about in and out. I did go by the place. I believe it was a lady by the name Patty that mentioned that the people from the assisted living have no place to go. Well, I went by. Really, the way it is. You tell me where someone is going to go through all those trees and everything. There's very little or nothing. It's actually even dangerous to go there because there's all kinds of snakes and other creatures there. So that is to answer some of the things. And trust me, if anybody here is not loved by developers, I'm one. Trust me, based on my votes in the past, I'm not loved by developers. So, I'm easy to say that. We are elected to be fair, to listen to your concerns. But we cannot violate laws. And if we're going to deny this, we're going to have to justify why we're denying it. That's the other thing. There was a gentleman, Mr. Bart, I believe, that says that he was a police officer for 40 years. And he dealt with noise and safety. Well, I retired as the commander of detective unit that dealt specifically with the civil part of the department. So when it comes to civil litigation, I'm pretty aware of the consequences. Mr. Bart, I believe he left. Okay? There's another gentleman that spoke about a place that he's seen, he believes in a different state, where the facades, I believe he meant to say the facades of the place, they made it very attractive. Well, looking at this over here, if this is any good representation, it's not an ugly one. But in between this and have 20 or 30 stores right in front of your place, one again, look at the scale, see what's in there. Would you rather have a supermarket, which is absolutely within the code that's there now? Would you rather have a Bell's Bund? You'd rather have a Bell's Bund than a supermarket there. What would that affect the traffic and the safety? That's all I have to say for now.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Mr. Livingston, I think I've done. My comments are quick.
Just in case you had questions. So
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
I made my comments earlier but I will add to that I have a tremendous, well, first of all, thank each and every one of the residents that have come forward to voice their opinions and to show the, the respect and the feeling they have about their community. I also have deep, deep respect for the expertise of our city staff and those members of our planning and zoning PLDRB members. This staff works day in and day out on what has come before, what is happening now, and they also look to the future of what will happen here in our precious city. I respect them. I trust their opinion. I know that they have considered all of the elements of the discussion today with great care, skill, and diligence. So I commend them for the efforts that they have shown. And with that, are there any additional comments by city staff at this time, by city council at this time? I would entertain a motion at this time.
Motion to approve it.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second to approve. Are there any additional discussion by city council at this time? Then I would ask for a roll call vote from the clerk, please.
Vice Mayor Branquinho. Yes. Councilmember Barbosa.
No.
Councilmember Danko.
Yes.
Councilmember Clufus.
Affirmative.
Mayor Alfin.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
We will now move forward on the agenda to we have a consent agenda now, right?
No,
No?
we have ordinances first read.
I'm sorry. Ordinance, I'm sorry. Do you have something to deliver to the clerk? Well, no, make a comment after if you have a paper to deliver to her.
No, I already did. I talked to the other lady.
The comment card you submitted? Okay.
All right, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We'll now move to ordinances for the second read. If the council would read the title, please.
Mr. Mayor, we're on agenda item H, which is first read for ordinances 7 and 8. The first ordinance, number H7, first read, is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, providing for the amendment of the City of Palm Coast 2035 Comprehensive Plan as previously amended. This is pursuant to Chapter 163 of the Florida statutes. This ordinance amends the future land use map, or FLUME, designation for 40.71 acres, more or less, of certain real property from residential, low-density rural estate, which is Flagler County designation, to industrial City of Palm Coast designation, as described in more detail in the legal description, which is an exhibit to this ordinance, including a note on the future land use map to limit development of the property to borrow pits and compensating floodplain storage, providing for conflicts, ratification of prior acts, codification, severability, and an effective date. Mayor, Council, this is not a rezoning, it's a comp plan amendment, and therefore under Florida law it is deemed to be a legislative matter, not quasi-judicial.
Thank you, Councilor. With respect to City Council, do you all need a break for a minute, or are you willing? First of all, how long is your presentation?
Short as you want it. 10, 15 minutes, Mayor. I'm sorry.
City Council, do you need a break at this time, or are you okay?
I'm good either way.
All right, so we'll power through it, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, City Council members, Ray Tyner, Deputy Chief Development Officer. If it's okay, Mayor and City Council, since we have two companion items, we can do one presentation, Mr. Papa can, and then
I think
vote
a
on them
single
separately.
presentation is fine, and I think we have to vote on them separately. But if you'll combine them, that would be wonderful.
Sure, and with that, I'm going to let Jose Papa go ahead and do the staff presentation.
Yes, sir. I'll be brief. So this is we have a future land use map amendment and a zoning map amendment for two parcels, which comprise about 41 acres, a mile and a half south of 100. It was recently annexed into the city within the city's utility service area. Currently, as you can see from this presentation, it is this area highlighted in yellow. which currently retains the Flagler County designation of residential low density. The proposal is to change that to industrial, City of Palm Coast designation with a policy to limit any uses on that property to burrow pits or compensating floodplain storage. In layman's terms, that means there will be no vertical development on this site, no buildings or anything like that. So looking at the analysis, the proposed land use designation would result in much less impacts to our public facilities, water, sewer, demand would be lower. There's no impact on the environment. There are no listed species on the site. There's no impact on the groundwater sources, no impact on historical resources, and no impact on the general local topography. The proposed industrial is consistent with the designations to the north, which includes agriculture and timberland, and to the east and west, which are all designated as industrial. That agriculture and timberland designation is within the airport property, so it is consistent with the uses or potential future uses. There is a residential land use to the south, and that's the Seminole Palms development, but that is currently buffered by the Iroquois Canal, as well as a landscape buffer, which is on the proposed site, which would be required by the Land Development Code. So consistent with the comp plan policies of providing a balance between the different land uses, development may be accommodated by existing public facilities capacity, and the additional acreage adjacent to the Flagler County Airport for industrial is appropriate. So again, we have our findings that there are no impact on level of service for infrastructure, no impact on environmental conditions, and it's consistent with surrounding land uses and consistent with comp plan policies. The PLDRB held a public hearing and recommended by 6-0 vote unanimously to approve this future land use map amendment from residential low density rural estate, that's the Flagler County designation, to industrial, which is the city designation, along with that policy, to limit the uses on this site to burrow pits and compensatory floodplain storage. The companion zoning map amendment basically will mirror your future land use map amendment. Currently, it is zoned industrial planned unit development. That's a county designation. And the proposed designation would be industrial 2, which is the county, or which is the city designation. Looking at the criteria for a zoning change, the change is generally consistent with the surrounding land uses. The burrow pit on the subject properties provide local employment opportunities, as well as supplies one of the city's main employment sectors, the construction industry, with a crucial need, and that is fill dirt. It is consistent with the city's policy to diversify land uses. Again, the industrial adjacent to the airport is appropriate. There are no liability and hardships, since again, these facilities will require minimal public infrastructure to serve it. And the proposed expansion of the industrial zone, again, is appropriate with adjacent to Flagler County Airport, and in the long run, has the potential to enhance the buffer between the airport uses and the residential areas to the south, which would be south of the Iroquois Waterway. And currently, this project will still need to meet all applicable local, state, and federal development requirements. Planning Board held a public hearing and also, again, recommended by a 6-0 vote that City Council approve this proposed zoning map amendment from industrial PUD, Flagler County designation, to industrial 2, which is the City of Palm Coast designation. And this will still require a second public hearing before City Council. I believe the applicant's team is here in attendance if you have any additional questions.
I just have to staff a question. This borrow peak, does he have a depth, maximum allowed depth that they could go down?
I do not know what the depth's going to be. They'll come in for a site plan, but you know, it'll come in for a regular site plan, but I'm not real sure what the depth is going to be for this borrow pit.
Do you have any idea, sir?
I do not believe the depth was defined. We have already received the St. John's Water Management District permits for both pits, but I do have a site plan graphic I'm going to put up so you can see the extent. So this is the property. So there's 2 pits. We have This is the JTL pit, and I do not believe there's an elevation call-out yet on the pit, which will be determined at final site plan. Did you see one, Jose?
No.
Is there one by law?
It looks like,
That's the reason why I'm asking this, which I'll ask next.
it looks like the.
Mr. Vice Mayor, it'd be my anticipation that when we get to the stage in the process for the development order for the site plan, at that point in time, there will be consultation with the St. Johns River Water Management District, which will place a limitation for obvious purposes on how deep you can dig, so that you not have negative impact on either the surficial or the Floridan aquifer.
Absolutely. That was
That,
what
and
I
that
was
would be
about
part
to
of the
go with.
permitting process,
Okay.
yes. But on
Then
this,
I guess my question is satisfied at this point, and before they proceed, we'll have the permission from.
Yeah, it's just a matter of right now, you know, we're here on two matters. One is the comp plan, that's 10,000 feet. Then with the rezoning, which is the next matter, which is a little closer to the ground. But your question, which of course is a very important question, is when we get to the next layer of specificity in the development process.
And Councilman Branquinho, and when we go through that process, we make sure we get those permits in-house, get a copy of them as well.
Please, keep us informed.
and I didn't bring because the permit's already been issued by St. John's for both pits. I didn't bring the technical plans. I just brought the overall boundary plans to show you where the pits would be located relative to the wetlands primarily. Before the second reading, if the specific debts have been called out on those technical plans, I'll make sure to bring that to your attention. I believe you can kind of count the lines and determine what the proposed elevations are based upon the topo there, but I'll get more specific information for you before second reading.
Thank you. Appreciate it, sir.
And I don't have a presentation unless you want to see. The graphics that I brought to show you was the existing Klein pit. So this is an extension of that. You can see that's the permitted extension. This is the JTL pit, and this is them as they kind of exist together. And the primary reason for those graphics is to show you that we're protecting this fairly significant wetland in between. There's no impacts to that. It'll be properly buffered. And then this is just the letters for the record of the pit expansion and the borrow pit for Grand Landings that were already issued by St. John's. But more specific technical data, if there's any other technical data you want to see, I'll make sure to get that to you before second reading.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that conclude your comment?
Yeah.
So let's, City Council, questions now, please?
Yeah,
I have none.
What usually happens at the end of this project?
Well, it depends on the kind of pit. It's a good question. Some pits, you know, they build a residential subdivision around them. Some pits become part of a stormwater system on a road, like Old Kings Road. Some of the ponds are actually tied into some of the old borrow pits. This particular pit, we limited it in the comp plan, so it can only be a pit, and then once that's retired, compensating floodplain storage. So it'll only be that as specifically called out as a policy in your comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
Comments?
Okay.
Okay, so at this time, I would invite the public. Anyone would like to make a public comment about this ordinance at this time? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Any additional comment from City Council?
Motion approved.
I have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
We're doing them separate, or?
We are.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to vote on
On
each
the
one separately.
comprehensive plan
Okay.
amendment.
Okay.
That's
So
it.
I do have a motion and I have a second. There was no additional discussion. So I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Branquinho?
Yes.
Councilmember Barbosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Danko?
Yes.
Councilmember Clufus?
Aye.
Mayor Alfin?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
And we can move forward. I would ask for a motion for, do you have to read the
I
next
need to
item?
read the title, yeah. Take my moment in the sun. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, providing for the amendment of the official zoning map as established in section 2.06 of the City of Palm Coast Unified Land Development Code, amending the zoning designation for approximately 40.7 acres, more or less, from industrial PUD, Flagler County designation, to industrial 2, city designation. Subject property is more particularly described in Exhibit A to the ordinance and graphically depicted in Exhibit B. This ordinance provides for severability, provides for conflicts, provides for non-codification, and for an effective date. Mr. Mayor, this one is quasi-judicial, so if there's been any ex-parte communications, those need to be disclosed at this time.
Councilman?
None whatsoever.
I've had none as well, so there's none.
Mayor, this was part of Mr. Papa's previous presentation. We have nothing to add. We're here for questions.
Very good. It was a thorough presentation. Thank you, Mr. Papa. Any questions or discussion from City Council at this time? Then I would open this up again for public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to come forward and make comment on this ordinance at this time? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Any additional questions from City Council? Then
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Then I would ask for a roll call vote as well.
Vice Mayor Branquinho.
Yes.
Councilmember Barbosa.
Yes.
Councilmember Danko.
Yes.
Councilmember Clufus.
Yep.
Mayor Alpin.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Very good. So that takes care of our items number 7 and 8. Thank you, staff. We now move to consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that City Council would like removed at this time? Seeing none, I would ask for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, we should open it up to the public, see if there's any comment on any items on the consent agenda.
On consent? I'm sorry. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on our consent agenda at this time? Seeing none, I will close public comment, come back to City Council.
Approve it.
Thank you. I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any other discussion? All in let's do a roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Branquinho.
Yes.
Councilmember Barbosa.
Yes.
Councilmember Danko.
Yes.
Councilmember Clufus.
Yes.
Mayor Alpin.
And yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
We'll now move to item number J on the agenda, which is public participation. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on items that were not covered on the agenda previously? Seeing none, I will close public comment, and at this time, I would ask, is there any discussion by City Council of matters that were not on today's agenda?
Yes. You want to go first?
Councilman, let's go in order. Councilman Danko, any comments
Yeah,
today?
there was one thing. I got a lot of calls last 3 or 4 days, a couple of emails, I think, but on the question in our survey about the canals. And I've got to agree, it is a leading question. It has very negative connotations. And, you know, as a result, as far as I'm concerned, that question has been poisoned. And any response we get from it is really going to be tainted. I'm disappointed that that question wasn't brought to us beforehand, considering the importance of it. It was one of the 3 things I believe that we wanted in that survey. And I just think we should have written that question a little differently. So as far as I'm concerned, and I don't know what the response is going to be from the community, but that question was poisoned. And that's how I feel about it.
Okay.
Just wanted to let you know.
Appreciate comment.
Also, I wanted to also mention I have been out on our canals quite a lot, and I have seen the spots where they're 3 feet and 4 feet, you know, depending on the tides and stuff. So I know there's an issue there. My friend Councilman Bertino brought up renourishment at Flagler Beach a week or so ago, and I've talked to some friends of mine in North Carolina because that was a major issue where I lived on Hatteras Island. We were always renourishing beaches. And I'm told, and again, none of us are experts, but I'm told that it is a far more expensive venture than doing a canal, that it's kind of apples and oranges, that when you're filling in dunes and filling in a beach. So again, I hope we move forward and look at these consultant companies and find one that's reasonable and get us the facts so we don't have to sit here and wonder, will it cost $50 million or 25 or whatever. I would suggest to staff and our city manager, I think it's Coral Gables has something like over 200 miles of saltwater canals, and they have their own dredge. With a 5-man crew, they recently purchased a second dredge and are putting on a second crew. Obviously, 200 miles plus is a lot more than we have with our 25, 26 miles. But we may want to speak to the city of Coral Gables, find out who they used, and maybe that's a solution for us. I don't know, but I'm just hoping we move forward and get the facts as quickly as we can, because it's confusing to all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Councilman Barbosa?
So I'm not sure how this kind of works out. I was never called to any meetings on this canal dredging or issues with the canal, except for this week. I don't know if it's normal for a councilman to go into another district and just do meetings without inviting him. Anyway, after a resident called me out, his name is Gary, I went over there and I saw what's going on. And, you know, we have the strategic action plan coming up, and I think that's the best place to put this in. What I found is, you know, it makes sense. We have parks and we have maintenance plans for them. We have streets, we have maintenance plans for them. We have numerous things, traffic lights, maintenance plans. So I think we need to have a maintenance plan for the canal. It's probably gonna cost a lot of money, but it's something that, it's an amenity to here that we picked up. And, you know, I don't think, you know, dredging it just one time is gonna do it. I think we're gonna have to go out and buy one of these dredging machines and get a crew and see where they're gonna be placed in the departments. And that will be under my strategic action plan. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Councilman Clufus?
I have nothing for today, thank you.
All right. Vice Mayor Branquino.
That's actually, I was going to ask, before any of this came up with the saltwater canals, I was going to ask our city manager, did we hear anything else from those consultant companies yet? Do we have any update on that?
Yes, we actually did conduct a meeting with a premier consulting firm that does the bulk, I would say, of the expert work for Florida Inland Navigation District. So we did have a very good conversation about that, and we are looking at getting an actual scope of services.
So within what? Another 2-3 weeks, we should be able to have a good idea of what's going to cost?
My initial goal was to be able to bring that back in March 8th, when the survey results came back as well, but there's a lot of steps that we're working through in the interim.
I would say it's...
Can I add to that?
Hold on one second. Yes, just one second. Because the next step would have to be approved by city council, because there will be a financial obligation to it. But you'll be able to bring that back relatively quickly, then it'll come back to you
I
again.
just want to know if that was an update, and that was an update.
Good. And let me just get Councilman Ramos real quick.
So not just to get one cost, but to get a cost if we were to do it ourselves too, I think would be a good thing.
I don't know, how are we going to get that cost if we don't have the expertise?
Can I make a suggestion? Your SAP individual one-on-one, could you discuss that directly with staff and find out? And the only reason I say that, I think we all agree that there's a great amount of either expertise or experience with this particular item, and I don't want to force staff to give you an answer that they don't have the experience necessarily to bring. I don't know that, but just let's be cautious with that.
Makes sense.
Certainly, we can always compare what we get. Could we do it ourselves better? Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, I would think that would be part of what the consulting firm will do, is tell us our options. Costs this much to hire the Army Corps of Engineers, costs this much to hire a private dredging firm, or costs this much to put in your
Sure, if we build that into the RFQ, absolutely, okay. Councilman?
I'm gone.
Very good.
Can I add one more comment?
Yes.
To this aquatic center, I think, you know, in the future, we're gonna need an aquatic center. That's, you know, obvious. But, you know, the pool is owned by the school board, I believe, right?
One of the pools.
The one that's, you know, fairly not maintained. I mean, this pool was donated to them. They took it when it was free, but now, you know, they drained the fruits of it, and they don't want to repair it. And people are coming here looking at us like it's our fault. You know, I think they need to repair it. They used it for so many years, it's time for them to repair it. That's it.
So is that a volunteer to go to the next school board meeting?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't mean to make light of it. So there have been discussions. Actually, this group has come to see me. The interim city manager has a regular standing appointment with the superintendent So yes, we don't live in completely separate worlds, although you correctly identified the fact that it would be their responsibility, but we will do everything we can to help our residents get to a place that makes sense, okay? The only comment that I have is that I just would go on the record to urge our residents to please do the survey, and understanding your point about the scientific survey, but certainly if we get our residents to, I would really like to break the record on survey this year, so that we can use that information. And then the particular question, you footnoted it well, and we will consider that when the results come back. That's all I have. Next, I would ask if the city attorney, I'm sure has no comment.
No comment.
Not last, but almost, interim city manager, any comment for now?
Just per your agenda, item M12 for
Yes.
administrative purposes, just opening that item up for reporting our emergency and sole source purchases for November and December. Any questions from council? Otherwise, I have nothing.
There are no questions at this time. Is that all? Is that the direction you needed?
Yes, thank you,
Then
Mayor.
I would ask,
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor? Thank you.